So we're on, is what you're saying? Cool.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Caroline and Shazbot.
Our biggest fans. Although I'm not sure that either of them are actually fans.
They better be, because I'm starting an OnlyFans.
Oh dear.
You know, I would expect that from Ryan, but not from you, Tim.
Well, gotta start bringing in income somehow.
So are we gonna actually talk about the book this time? Is that the?
Hard to
so.
say.
Is that on the agenda? We
Hard to say.
talked about the book. We just didn't talk about the text.
We got through a chapter.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
One,
Well, they're
It's
long
hard to-
chapters.
when you're starting not just a new book and a new series, it's hard.
Yeah,
It's
we have
tough.
to completely figure out a different way of talking about it.
Yeah. And the themes and the style. I mean, a lot of what we did talk about yesterday was last time was how different many aspects were than the thing that we've talked about for 30 other book clubs.
And it's
30?
different, but
Is
similar.
Are we on 32 now? Is that the?
I think this is 31.
Oh wow.
I watched some of our
I know.
previous episodes. They're pretty good. We're pretty good at talking. Generally.
And that is the endorsement for all of our audience to go back and watch all of our weird other ones that we
Yeah,
did.
pretty good.
Somebody notify Tor.com.
Surely it can't be worse than like 95% of podcast-esque things, right?
When I've
Yeah.
gone back and watched our old episodes, I've thought that they are better than Kevin Smith's podcast.
Wow.
No doubt.
A lot of people like that podcast.
It's a
I know.
low
it
bar
makes
to
me
hurdle.
So angry.
We probably talk about comic book movies as much as they do on the Kevin Smith podcast, huh?
Yeah.
It is one of the boxes we have to check each session. So
Yep. Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, politics,
Marvel movies.
Marvel.
The Democratic
What else?
National
The
Convention.
pillars of our current culture.
Yeah.
Usually throw in some kind of existential philosophy.
Right. Time.
And
We should probably talk more about wrestling somehow.
yeah, I mean, I can
Yeah,
talk as much about
used to
wrestling
be
as
a
you
lot
want.
more of a topic than it is now.
Yeah.
I don't try to force it.
It's been tough since we're not allowed to go see wrestling anymore.
I've been watching
wrestling
a
on
lot
TV
of
a little
wrestling
bit.
though. What?
I've started watching wrestling on TV a little bit.
Oh, good.
Really? I thought you didn't like it.
I don't, but there's a pretty girl.
Which TV wrestling are you watching with the pretty girl?
I don't know. When we turn the TV on, when it's time to watch TV, whatever channel it naturally goes to, whatever the hell that is,
What night of the week is it?
all of them.
Oh.
Whatever channel it naturally goes
There's
to.
nothing to grasp onto. This is like a Gene Wolfe story.
Or something. I don't know what the hell it's doing, but whenever we just turn on the television, it's showing wrestling, and it's always a bunch of women. Every single time.
Does it look
That's
like
like
the
the
present?
window. The window is talking to you.
Yeah.
It looks like the
Definitely.
present because there's no audiences. There's also usually two long-haired men pulling pranks on each other.
You're probably watching WWE then.
Is it not all WWE?
Not anymore. I don't watch any WWE.
Wow. Well, I got a crush on one of them.
Which one? Does she have a name?
Yes, but I can't. I've not paid attention long enough to figure out who it is.
You should remember the names of your crushes, Connor.
I know. Well, it's hard because so many of them look exactly the same.
Yeah, that's
And you
kind of the WWE thing. They
You
all
don't have to remember her name because every time you turn on the TV, she's there.
That's right. Every time I turn it on, she's there.
So
Yeah, she must be which of the Long Sun goddesses do you think she is?
Kuiper.
Scalding Scylla.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Well,
Well,
chapter 2.
Well,
Silk
Chapter-
goes to the market.
Silk goes to the market.
the sacrifice.
This is where he meets Oreb.
Yeah. And
So-
also he sees the like weird like lemur thing that can talk.
Tick?
Catacrest.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what is the point of why is there a tick here?
Yeah, this is a good question.
It's a weird, like, unforgettable thing that doesn't seem to link into anything else yet. Why do
You
we
know,
need-
I actually don't know what you're talking about. What is that?
So, he goes and there's the shady guy selling the animals for sacrifice, the exotic
Yes.
ones. And-
Yeah.
And he tries to sell like 2 contraband animals to Silk. And the first one is a catacrest named Tick, who can talk, but in a way that's very difficult to understand.
Well,
Oh, they're two different things.
Apparently, I'm reading in the companion. It's always using improper use of words. It's the word catacrest is a back formation of catacresis, improper use of words.
Oh.
And it says specifically that Tick always uses the wrong word.
Oh,
We should look back over everything that Tick says in this chapter.
weird.
Well,
also I will now read the entry for Tick himself.
Okay.
Because you were reading Catacrest, right?
I was.
The Catacrest Silk rejected before buying Orib. The name being a catachrestic substitution for the word talk, in addition to being a homonym for a vocal tick. As a talking cat, he is perceived by at least one Trivaganti as being an oracle of space. Tick seems to admit this is true. For a collection of Tick sayings, see TikTok in the languages of the Whirl Appendix.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Wow.
TikTok.
So there's a whole section in the companion of just
Well,
TikTok.
here he says, word, shoe word, who add pan.
Yeah.
and then,
And then further down he says, berry add word, pack, add word, add speak.
Yeah, bad bird.
bad bird and bad beak, I think, right?
Right, but I think that we have to consider that everything Tick says has 2 meanings.
Yeah.
What else is Tick saying?
Oh, so doesn't just mean bad bird, it means 2 other words that sound like add word.
Correct.
Okay.
It could be the literal thing that Tick is saying. What is the syllables again?
First one is word, shoe word, who add pan.
Wait, where? Can somebody who has this book tell me what page you're on?
31. Top of 31.
Okay, I just looked.
Word.
Very add word.
Word.
Pack, add word. Add speak.
Well, I apologize in advance if I'm sending us down some weird wild goose chase.
No, it's
Yeah, I'm very curious about it.
Well, it seems like part of the functional point of this little episode is so that when Oreb talks, it's not like a singular event, maybe?
Right?
yeah. Like animals talk in this world.
Yeah, animals can talk.
And that contracts with New Sun, that there's like evolved animals, I guess,
Yeah.
like different kinds of animal forms.
I think it's also like it's maybe the first part where you really, I mean, probably not the first part of the book, but like you start to really see some of the strangeness of this place, because initially the catacrest is described as just like a cat, but then it's described as like gripping the bars of the cage and shaking it, like it's got little hands. um, which was really weird. But I mean, I guess we should, coming out of New Sun and into this, we got to understand that nothing is going to be exactly what we think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the seller, tries to sell it as being close to a child. Like it might even kind of be reminiscent of a child in appearance, slightly.
Right.
Yeah, the seller's totally trying to appeal to that.
And isn't the idea of why he's trying to say like it's close to a child is because they like what the sacrifices used to be children.
According to this,
Right.
It's now illegal.
Right. So the closer you can get to a child with your sacrifice, the better.
Yeah. Which is weird. We'll have to discuss sacrificing at some point too. I think we touched on it last week
about it.
But
well, it's like the core of Silk's like of this religion, or at least of the clergy. It seems like because he's called an augur, and like an augur is specifically somebody who like reads the entrails of sacrificed animals.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me, this is just a hypothesis, that sacrifice could sociologically fulfill a role of making sure that food gets distributed.
Do they eat the sacrificed animals though?
The whole congregation gets some of the animal.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the ceremony gets to, like, that's why some poor people come to church. The sole reason is that they get food.
Yeah. But walk me through the whole process here. Like, okay, so when they go to sacrifice, I remember they talk about, giving pieces of the animal to everyone and people come for that. But then isn't there an aspect of like putting it into the altar so that it like incinerates down too, right?
Right. So the way it works, I would assume that it works the way the Greeks did it.
Right.
And the way the Greeks did it is that the gods get all the parts of the animal that you wouldn't be able to eat anyway. Like in the myth explaining how this happens, the gods get the bones and the fat wrapped in the skin.
Yeah.
And humans get the meat.
Yeah. Okay. And so they do like a little impromptu butchery there. Right. And kind of like throw all that stuff in. And then that's why he's always reading the entrails. Got it.
Right.
How do you say haruspicy?
After the info reading, I think.
What did you say?
Sorry, Ron?
This is a word, haruspicy. I don't know how to say it. It's Haruspicy, I think. Is haruspicy.
Yeah.
Is that from Haruspex?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an ancient Rome, a religious official who interpreted omens by inspecting the entrails of sacrificial animals.
Yeah.
So that's just another word for augur, I guess.
Yeah, I think it doesn't augur like is a variety of omens, and then a haruspex is specifically entrail shaped.
Yeah, I didn't think that augury was specifically related to entrails, but I could be wrong.
So
I
also
actually thought that augury was specifically birds.
So in ancient Rome, an augur was a religious official who observed natural signs, especially the behavior of birds, interpreting these as an indication of divine approval or disapproval of a proposed action. So it's not even like a sacrificial thing. It's more just like bird watching for omens.
Yeah, and I mean, I think in general that I was under the impression that term was also just in general used more generally as like I don't know, in an oracular sense, but not like any kind of. I always thought of it as a more general word, but I might just be mistaken about that.
Yeah, I guess it like the verb of augur. So the noun is like the religious official, but the verb is to portend a good or bad outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it's one of those words that as people cared about that aspect of life less, it's gotten more vague.
Yeah, sure. That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah.
There's a book.
Anyway.
I was the first time I read this, I was like, I want to learn more about this looking at entrail stuff. And there is a book that exists. I think I found one, and it came with some like fake entrails, so you could like practice without actually killing anything.
Wow.
I have not purchased this book, but it remains in my like save for later on eBay cart.
Wow.
That
Maybe
is
when we get
niche.
that second stimulus, it'll be time.
There you go. And then you got to save up for livestock.
Stimulate the organs.
Although a good thing to augur with right now probably would be mice, because they're a plague totem.
Don't see.
Well,
many
and
of
they're
those.
having to cull lots of lab mice right now in the same way that they're just like slaughtering pigs and stuff because they.
Also,
We're
there's
living in a
apparently
dark
ultra-violent
world.
rats roaming the streets, though I haven't seen any, except for
Bats?
on rats.
Rats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Winter.
Because the like restaurant culture is so much, it's contracted so much, and that's like rats rely so much on garbage, and there's just like less food garbage around than ever.
So
Not
they're
in my neighborhood.
babies.
We got
Anyhow.
plenty of rats doing just fine around here.
I think that the Baltimore rat populace will probably outlive us all. So
That's right. They
Well,
have a-
yeah, but at the beginning of quarantine, I was hearing a lot of reports around Baltimore of just like
Yeah.
dead and dying rats, but at a higher quantity than usual, like, and just with erratic behavior and stuff.
I feel it's odd how few rats we see on the world.
They know better than to let us see them.
I guess so.
Rats are kind of interesting. From what I understand, they kind of stowed away on ships coming from Europe, and
Yeah.
then made their way into the American city that way. Very,
Are there
very
no-
resourceful, resilient animal.
There's no natural American rat?
Yeah, it comes from overseas.
That's crazy.
I mean, the rats that we have here are called Norway rats, and I don't know if that means like that's the breed of the species, but I don't know if that means that they came from Norway, but they're called like the classic rat that you see in the city is a Norway rat.
What a strange choice for an animal. I'm gonna get on this boat. Wonder where we're going.
Like,
Well,
Ryan,
maybe it
the
doesn't-
video
no, I mean,
is
it's-
frozen, so you're just lifting this cup up to your face. Oh no, you're back now.
That was on purpose. But who is the first? It's hard for
Yeah.
me to imagine like when rats are first like, no, come with me. We're gonna get on this thing.
I mean,
think
I
so.
think that's describing an intentionality that was not necessarily there. I imagine it's like the
Yeah.
gangplank is down and they're loading up the thing, or there's like rats in a barrel of grain, and the barrel of grain
Yeah.
is on the boat. Like,
Because,
whatever.
Yeah, they're always just if there's food around, they're gonna be hot on it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the idea of a rat being like, I'm going to take a journey on the sea is like absolutely hilarious.
Hey, we've all seen An American Tail.
Yeah.
And Ratatouille.
Those are mice.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Sanic is with us. Sanic says this chapter also has the first mention of the embryo black market at the bottom of page 30 in the omnibus. I put mine into a few coldens. You take my
Yeah.
meaning, Patera? Only they warmed up and went bad on me before I could move them.
I had noted that as well.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Rotten embryos.
Yeah, that must be where blood
Kind of put
got
the
deeper.
Silken countering his own origin here. Although I've also lost count of how many people I now suspect of being grown from an embryo.
Is silk grown from embryo?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we're all grown from embryos, right?
right. But I mean,
Well,
Right,
I mean,
but silk was grown by the previous call day. Is that right? I'm trying to remember all the old stuff.
The old Pope,
Right? That's right.
the old Pope grew him. Did he implant him in Silk's mother like they did with Mucor and the cats?
I think that's the story.
Okay. So
And that's why she's like, you're gonna be a great man with a great future. Or whatever.
Which I think he was genetically altered to be that, maybe?
Yeah.
Something? Yeah.
Yeah.
the story of Silk's mom reminds me of the mom in the Joker. Like pining, right, kind of like pining away for this really powerful man that people around her would find it improbable she had any kind of actual relationship with.
Mm.
Yeah.
Not that I endorse that movie, just seen it recently, so for the first time, so it stuck out.
Mm-hmm.
I explicitly reverse endorse that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I found it to be like in high school when you got like a poem project and a dude on the lacrosse team was like, I think I can do this. You know? Yeah, man, I can write a poem. Yeah, check this out.
Oh, I feel like it's a funny Eminem style slapback against Scorsese saying that comic book movies aren't cinema. I think that these two jokester people who would never make a comic book movie were just like, oh yeah, Scorsese? Well, what would it be like if you made a comic book movie and they made that movie?
And it still sucks.
I mean, I think the point was like these are all the ways in which your movies suck and they're formulaic, and like we can totally make your movie here like this.
Huh.
I thought it was pretty well made. Just I think the timing just maybe. I think like it's just not exactly the time to watch another like angry, edgy white guy movie. I think like the timing of it is just felt a little weird, but I mean overall I thought it was well made and compelling, but just a little cringy. I don't know.
Like a total cop out in it, in that like I feel like you either do a standalone story that like only like incidentally involves these aspects of a comic book movie, or you make a comic book movie, and I feel like they didn't pick which one they're doing, because it starts and you're like, oh, this is just a movie, and then you get these scenes that are like him talking to little Bruce Wayne and these things where you need to know about Batman to give a shit, and the ending, if you don't know about Batman and care about Batman, the ending is completely unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And that, so I was very disappointed that they didn't just keep it as a movie that works without Batman. I felt like they
implied that that wasn't the real Joker though, that guy.
Right, sure. But still, it's like if you don't care about the Joker, if you don't care about like the existing canon or whatever, then the movie it's worthless.
Yeah.
They almost did the really cool thing, I feel like, of like taking a piece of the mythology and then making it its own,
extracting it. Totally.
I feel like somebody could still do that. It would be nice, since all we're allowed to have are comic book movies. But oh well. I mean, Batman's not going to work until Batman's the villain. That's just the problem with Batman.
Yeah, I'm excited for when that happens.
Yeah, it seems like it's got to be soon.
It's inevitable. What's Silk's mom's name?
And so Shazbot unwittingly ushers in the comic book.
Another one.
We knew it would happen.
Anyway, so
check that box. Even though it's non-Marvel, we'll check that box.
The salesman character is really great. I feel like, and he actually follows all the different like sales, like all the different motions salespeople go through. Like he like starts up top,
very accurate.
Gets like whittled down. But I mean, the part that I love the most is when they realize they're losing and they start making emotional appeals. And he's like, I need the money bad, but it's just a sales tactic. Like, have you ever been in these situations with like a salesperson, like, like trying to buy a car or something, or I don't know, any professional salesperson, like they have these different steps, and like
I got kids.
when it gets towards the end, yeah, they start trying to like, yeah, get desperate with you if they realize they're losing you. Okay. So
I've had this exact thing happen before where it's like you're not even like it's like Silk's not even actually playing hardball. He just isn't gonna buy that thing. And the guy just keeps coming down, and Silk's like, no, I'm not buying it. Like I've had that happen specifically where I'm like, no, I'm not trying to negotiate. Like I'm not gonna buy it. Like I'm not buying it. And they're just like, but what about 30? Okay, 30. What about 30? And you're just like, no, I'm not buying it. Like I'm not buying it.
I just listened to Damon Lindelof talking about making Lost and how from the beginning they had only written 3 seasons and wanted it to be a 3-season show. And ABC was negotiating with them thinking that they wanted more money, and they just wanted ABC to tell them when they could end the show. And eventually ABC was like, okay, you can end the show. We were thinking 10 seasons. They're like, you don't understand what this you don't even understand the conversation we're having. And it feels like that kind of thing there.
Yeah.
Which is wild because you can tell, like 5 seasons into Lost, that they just want to end the show.
Yeah.
It's like just watch it and you understand that the show needs to be over.
Yeah.
Oh, Jordan's gonna be sad she missed this.
Oh, because of the Lost?
Yeah, she has lots to say about Lost.
Yeah, she does.
She has lots to say about Lost.
Ooh. Anyways, what's Silk's mom's name? Does anybody know?
Oh, I can't remember.
Aunt May.
So still on 31, the catacrest says like pack, add word, add speak, and then Silk interprets this as a message from the gods, right? And then he's like, I'm a little confused. Like, is the bird saying, or I'm sorry, is the catacrest there saying like, get the bird?
Yeah.
Like what piques his interest?
Show bird, you bad man. Very
What?
bad bird. Black. Bad bird.
Oh.
Bad bird, bad beak.
Got it.
But
I think that Silk is reacting to the use of the word add, like the sign of addition.
okay.
Right.
And that's what he's referring to as one of those oracular phrases, I think. Is
Yeah.
the definition of add.
Add word.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so, like New Sun, when I read this, I get, the sense that there are forces beyond, the main character's understandings manipulating the actions here. And on a first read through, I kind of read Silk as a parody of religious, I guess, believers or whatever. And now I'm like, kind of thinking, well, is this a god speaking through, in this moment, through this catacrest?
See, I think it's interesting that you read Silk as a parody of.
At first, I did.
Of religious, because I felt, I guess I don't know what I feel now, but I felt that Silk is a paragon of religious thought, where it's like through his piousness, and I feel like I guess one of the reasons Silk resonates with me is because I feel like this was my own Catholic journey of like, I'm into all of this Catholicism. I'm into thinking about it, and through thinking about it, I realize what it's leading me to, and that there's something beyond it, and that it itself is not the real truth. And that he empowers himself into being the only thing. And I think that's the secret of Catholicism that some people get locked up in. So yeah, I think How did you feel he was a parody?
I mean, he's a clown.
So in this instance, and then we talked last week about where he he's trying to break into Blood's manse, and he kind of views the Paws helping him along at every step of the way, even though he realizes that's ridiculous. But his reaction is to read God into small things, right? And
Right.
I think just my reading of that was my natural reading was, that's silly. That's not what's happening. This is just silliness.
Right.
Well, I think he's a fool, kind of in the the tarot sense, where
Exactly.
he's this kind of
right.
literally walking off a cliff, into, and it's this sort of oblivious embrace of this kind of deeper journey that's happening. So he gets further along because he's kind of just willing to blindly stumble forward.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of true about the actual metaphysics of faith.
Yeah, I think there's a cart and horse thing here.
Sure. But there's kind of this experiential equivalency of when you're drunk, you can survive a car accident. When the facts of a situation really lead towards giving up and killing yourself, faith is what keeps you going so that you get to the next thing where the facts are no longer that.
But yeah, and there's I feel like there's a Ouroboros kind of situation where Silk is kind of like Mr. Bean on the surface of bumbling around, and then but because he stays so hard with his faith, important things happen, and he does achieve things, which sort of it reconnects back around. So it's maybe if you believe in something that's stupid, but it allows you to do this stuff, does that kind of mean that under the original thing that's pushing you maybe isn't as stupid as all that?
Right.
Even though we can't have a direct experience of the intelligences or patterns or forces that are bigger than people, if you kind of act in a way that presumes that they're there and move forward, doesn't that kind of prove that there is some sort of pattern or force back there somewhere? You know what I mean? If an idiot can move forward with this, there is it might not be exactly specific thing we can identify, but there does seem to be something of the nature of a more powerful thing, whether it's a force or a deity or what.
Right. If your belief in a thing that doesn't exist then has positive effects in your life and on the world around you, how is that different than that thing actually existing and having positive effects?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a Wolfian question right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's I'm trying to think of a specific example in the past where it's people believe in something that turns out later to be scientifically untrue, but it still leads them to behavior that conforms with what you would have done if you would I don't know, if there must be an example with germs or something where people.
Well, there is.
Mm-hmm.
The Jews actually did much better during the plague because there's a ritual hand washing, which has nothing to do with scientific hygiene, but you do it two or three times a day. There's a hand washing thing with a prayer that goes with it.
Well, and kind of, I mean, that kind of feeds into what we were talking about earlier with the maybe the sacrifice is a way of just making sure everybody gets food.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Old Testament, a lot of the laws, by today's standards, don't make any sense. But when you're thinking about maybe don't eat pork, not because it's because they're unclean. I think that was just had to do with parasites. and them because their understanding was not bound with like germ theory, or like parasites weren't something that they could see or understand, but they knew that there was an adverse effect to eating like undercooked pork, and so they're like, all right, we're not going to do this anymore. Yeah, so it's like there's a utility to a lot of that stuff that doesn't necessarily conform to like modern science, but has to be based in some kind of experience.
And it does seem improbable, given history, that in like 400 years, people won't look back on us and be like, look at all the things they were so wrong about. Or like, look at these backwards ass beliefs they had. So it's like maybe we're always in the exact same position of like, got some things kind of right, got some things accidentally right. Like,
for sure.
Having this, like,
this is Charles Fort's argument.
He's back.
Yeah. The idea that like what's true now was totally wrong before and will totally be wrong again when something else is true, and there's a spectrum of true and untrue, and it all just matters on how you're looking at things. If a mouse falls into a vat of cheese that's being made, by the time the cheese is done, there's now this part of the cheese where the cheese and mouse have commingled, and you can't really say what is just cheese and what is just mouse anymore, and that's the truth, that kind of thing. Charles Fort's amazing. Everybody should read the books of Fort.
The books of Fort.
How many books of Fort are there?
4, but I've only ever seen them published all together.
Yeah, I have one at my house that's like this thick.
Yeah. It's The Book of the Damned, Low, Wild Talents, and New Worlds, I think. And he just collects things that science didn't know how to explain in 1919, and said how stupid science's explanations were for those things.
Yep.
Yeah. Like taking an instance of frog rainfall and then the official scientific explanation be that they were sucked up in a tornado, and then charting that, so this frog rainfall in France, the closest tornado to that was in Kansas 6 months prior. So the frogs were flying through the sky for 6 months from Kansas to France, is what science is saying. He does that kind of thing.
He's like a reverse Neil deGrasse Tyson.
He calls himself the first anti-scientist, where he's just scientifically figuring out where the edges of science are and how, like, that edge is not hard and fast. Like, there's not a cliff's edge of truth where science ends.
It's important to have that perspective. I wish more people just had an understanding of that, or just like that kind of historical, kind of long-term understanding of how knowledge and truth are formed. Like,
and science definitely do.
Yeah.
There's this interesting like jump between science and faith that like always has to happen. Like it's unavoidable.
And
but WOLFE is like preoccupied. But WOLFE is preoccupied with like giving these, I guess, scientific-ish explanations of like how faith functions,
Mm-hmm.
And we see that here in this book, and that these gods are basically just communicating these sort of programs or messages into people's consciousnesses through these screens, but they're inspiring people, awakening these forces in them, and kind of acting as their consciousnesses in a way that kind of reminds me of the bicameral mind theory.
Totally.
Like how apparently like Greek and Roman or people, human beings of that time on the earth, I guess, according to theory, experienced the voice of God in their head, which was really just their own consciousness as we maybe understand it now.
It's funny that you say that it's just their own consciousness. Because I feel like that's our perspective today, is that like, well, of course they didn't really, like, of course what you hear in your head is yours and it's from you. But there's no, of
that's
course.
our misunderstanding. That's our current misunderstanding, is that that's your consciousness.
Yeah.
It's not.
Isn't that like, honestly, I feel like when you're making stuff, like when you're writing or composing or something, to be able to step back and like detach inspiration from like your own property and things that like spontaneously occurred in you is insanely helpful.
Well, it's the only way. We've talked about this many times, but it's the only way anything good ever gets made.
It's the way that your art can be bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
AKA good.
Right.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that the opposite thing is also happening in this book at the same time.
Yeah.
Where it's showing how the dangers of and the process by which science-ism can arise. You have this population beholden to advanced technology for survival, with a paucity of viable technologists who are wrapped up in a craggy institution, and the whole thing falls apart. And people start following weird routes that no longer can fix the problems that they're designed to fix, and so the problems expand and crack.
Yeah.
And humanity is born to live on a whole new planet in a better way.
Yeah. They don't understand. They no longer understand the situation they're in a way that is like profound when you're reading this book. Like, I'm so curious what the first generations of the world were like.
Right?
Like, were they just normal? And here's were augurs just like mechanics? Like.
Exactly. What? How did that? Were they? I almost feel like the people who were put on that ship weren't told what was going on.
Yeah, it's possible, but it's also possible that they were told and that they knew, but the knowledge just kind of like just got lost in the shuffle.
I feel like all of the answers to what exactly happened we'll find out later on.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some chem people whose memories of this we see in shadowy ways, but yeah, at this moment, I feel like a bunch of robots were put on a ship with only embryos that they started to raise, and the culture was just designed into it, and nobody
programmed it.
Nobody in the world ever knew what the world was.
Does Shazbot have anything to say about this?
Not yet.
I feel like Shazbot's memory is better than most of ours.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't read
I'll speak for myself. My memory is very bad with this. It's just been too long.
I think that Jordan would have a lot to say on this topic if she were here.
Jordan.
Okay, so then so we're done with the little market scene. Then he goes back to the Mantian, huh? Am I saying that right? Mantian?
I think you are.
I just assumed it was mansion.
Oh, manch, like T-I.
Yeah, like a mansion.
Mansion.
I mean, it means that, like, it's one way or another.
Well, my cat's sitting on the book, so I have to wait for him to move.
No, yeah, that's understandable.
What does the word chrasmologic mean?
It's a made-up word.
Yeah, it's in the. I remember reading it and it's saying it's a made-up word.
Okay, yeah.
But there's some speculation.
The word chrasmologic seems to be a wolf coinage, perhaps a blend of Crestomathy, a collection of choice literary pieces, and cosmological, pertaining to the origins of the universe.
Yeah.
Is this the first time that we see Wolf actually creating new terminology then? Because I mean, that's like a sort
I
of
mean,
a
that's also
part of
Driussi's. It's also
Right.
Driussi's
I think
concept.
he. It does seem like he gets a little more loose with it in that, in the like he's using like he's pulling like a verbatim outdated words in New Sun, and then I think in this one he's playing with like roots and suffixes a little, like he's giving himself
Yeah.
more leeway, but he's not like pulling them out whole cloth like Tolkien or something.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that he's, and I mean, maybe I'm being some kind of an apologist here, but I feel like he has more of a reason to do that because of the closed nature of this system, that it would mutate along its own lines more. Also, I feel that Wolf follows a very Gravesian idea of how culture develops, so the language in New Sun would follow the rules of how our world works more because because the nature of it works. It's our fucking world. Whereas this world would develop in a totally different direction because the nature of it is different.
I got White Goddess on my Kindle and started reading it, and I'm frankly shocked.
Yeah, I would expect that you would be.
Yeah,
What's shocking?
I had no idea that it was like a dude who's tripping talking to you.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
definitely. It's so meandering.
It feels so much like a dude who has just been tripping for like 6 hours and meets you and is like, dude, check out what I just figured out, and is just blowing through all of these like realizations and connections and stuff like faster than you could ever follow. It's a singular book. I did not expect it coming. I thought, like I've seen like Graves' myth stuff in I Claudius, and I had no clue what a mystic he was.
No, yeah, he's a practicing fucking wizard, and this is the one where he's like, let me tell you what my life really is.
It seems like he did a good job of like covering that up, and like so that he could be respected in very, very normal ways by normal people. When
Definitely.
Looking into White Goddess, he's way more out there than I would expect someone of his stature to be.
I mean, I feel like he addresses that in the beginning where he says, like, I'm saying straight up, I know academics that you have your academic logic. This isn't that. So if you're reading this and you have a problem with the logic in it, or if you think the facts are wrong, shut the fuck up, because that's not what this is. Like, I feel like that comes from rankling against succeeding as the poet laureate and stuff like that, and just mainstream success. And he was like, I'm going to let my freak flag fly now because it's boiling over, Yeah. But I also think that he recognizes that tension is necessary for the White Goddess part of him, to have the Greek myths part of him, that's keeping that lid down there to build up the appropriate amount of pressure,
Yeah.
Like, I think that Crowley isn't as big a dick as he, like, in his soul, isn't as big a dick as he portrayed himself to be. He just wanted to protect the inside soul that wasn't a dick, so he made a person who was the biggest dick. And then that destroyed the gender soul inside. But it's the same kind of thing. It's just Graves was more successful because he chose to just be an academic instead of a dick, which is a specific kind of dick.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'll be right back. I have to give this Cheeto a snack.
yeah, do it.
Come on, Melvin.
Sentient Cheeto.
I've got a dark Cheeto.
Oh, a burnt Cheeto.
Burnt Cheeto.
I got a Cheeto, but I got a legit cheesy cheese puff, but he's elsewhere.
I have
underneath,
a pet here.
underneath something. He's underneath something.
Man, Oreb's so cool.
Yeah, Oreb's rad. Figures out how to fake his own death so that he doesn't have to die.
Yeah.
Caleb keeps talking to me about keeps saying things to me about Short Son, and I have to be like, that.
It's Jordan.
Hi, Jordan. Oh,
Jordan.
I begged her to come.
yeah?
Well, I asked her to come. I don't think Jordan gets that any person who's missing is a whole. It's a whole.
Yeah.
We need Jordan. Jordan, we need you.
Oh, man, her computer's really having a hard time, though, it seems.
Yeah, she just keeps like muting and unmuting, and then
Look, this is maybe a bad time for it, but I'll be right back. I'll just be right back.
Can you hear me?
We
Hey,
hear
Jordan.
you.
Oh, okay. I'm here.
Thank you for coming.
Hi.
What I miss?
Your screen looks really good like that.
loud.
You got a window open, I see.
That siren is chasing Connor. When he said he had to leave, it's because he saw the cops were coming.
No, it's me.
I
No,
realized
it's
I realized I desperately need more coffee, and that's why I.
So after the market, he goes to the Mantian and he like gives a
Yeah,
lecture.
he's a lesson. Yeah, a lecture about the 10 singing birds.
Where he like rolls up there. He's still thinking about all the shit that happened. Hey, Hairbow. During the day, and then he's like, "Well, let's just open to a random place in this Bible."
Yeah.
Like the unprepared teacher, just bullshitting it for the kids who don't know any better.
Or the faithful allowing the Lord to do his work.
Right.
Which is like it keeps like Silk is such the fool. He's like always the fool.
Totally. And I mean, also, libromancy is a practiced and valid form of augury.
Oh, for sure.
So it's not like this is out of his wheelhouse silly thing to do this. That there is.
Yeah, it's like the I Ching.
Yeah.
Coffee.
And who do we talk to? Is Horn talking to him at this point during that lecture,
I don't see
Is Horn talking to him?
or does the text talk about Horn during? Because Horn's in that group, right?
Yeah.
I really want to pay attention to whenever the text talks about Horn.
We've got Kit.
You got
It's
Ginger.
like and Horn with his broad shoulders and steely jaw. Walton.
I mean, they kind of
And
do
Horn.
the ball game thing. Horn is the one that's going to win the goal until Silk stuffs on him.
And Horn, the most handsome among us.
The most bashfully handsome. Well, anyway, maybe he doesn't talk about Horn.
Well, when Addix talks, he says Addix as old as Horn and with coloring nearly as light as Silk's own. And then Ginger talks. Oh wait, there's also another. The older boys had, for the most part, obeyed. Timid may tear a mint out of an odd half-formed chivalry, enforced when necessary by leaders like Horn.
Yeah. Sometimes Horn feels like an Iata. to me.
A car made by Mazda.
No, Iata.
The dude.
The torture.
Miata?
How do we pronounce it?
I said Ida when I read it in my head, but
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
know.
say it out loud. It's kind of silly.
Oh, I think it's Iata. I just thought it was funny that I think of it as Iata, but I thought it was funny that Ryan thought that you said Miata.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I guess
Horn. He's like a Miata. He's like thinks that he thinks that he's cooler than he really is.
Zoom, zoom. Right?
Yes.
Anyway.
Branding accurate.
So
I really.
go ahead.
Oh no! I was going to talk about how I'm looking forward to the part where Silk makes fried tomatoes and was disappointed that it wasn't after this market trip that happens when upon this reading. I don't know why, but for some reason the green fried tomato scene like really resonates with me.
It makes me hungry to read that part.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
love descriptions of
And he keeps
food.
thinking about it for like days afterward. He just keeps thinking about the green tomatoes.
And I think that it just shows how poor Silk lives. And he's like, remember when I ate? That was awesome.
But
Yeah.
also it stuck in his mind to the thing that happened with Rose, because he keeps thinking about that too.
Yeah.
But I feel like that description is like extra lush, and it's like how like in Studio Ghibli movies when they make like a meal and you're just like, oh my god, I need to
Totally.
eat that.
Yeah.
Totally. You're like, I want to eat that.
It's like
It's
some
just
kind
like
of weird artistic
it's the most
trick to
meager
like
meal.
poke some prime.
Actually, I'm growing some tomatoes right now, and I can't wait until I've got some good green ones. I can fry them up. Also, I mean that's a very southern thing. I don't think that's why Gene put it in, but for me personally, as a southern person, I'm like all in.
Well, I wonder if it has to do with it seems like that would also be kind of an indicator of the climate problems that they're having. I wonder if it's like you just can't keep a tomato plant alive long enough to have ripe tomatoes. So like inherently you're going to have green tomatoes or something like that.
Right. I mean, or usually I guess you get more green tomatoes towards the end of a season where they're on the vine, but they're not going to ripen all the way.
Yeah.
And so that's really when you're going to be eating them. And that seems, I don't know. I mean, that seems resonant here. Like they're at the end of a season in a greater sense, because approaching the end of their journey. But they're also having climate problems.
I'm growing these really nice yellow tomatoes.
Ooh.
They look like this.
Nice.
And they're fuzzy. They're a little bit fuzzy.
Weird.
Fuzzy, like a peach.
Yeah, they're called Wapsipinicon peach.
Say it again.
Wapsipinicon peach.
Do they taste like green tomatoes?
No, they're this is a ripe tomato. This is an all the way ripe yellow tomato.
What are you going to do with them?
Eat the fuck out of it.
Nice. Take
In
no
whatever-
prisoners.
In whatever way. Yeah, I don't know. Eat them. I'm about to have a lot of them, so we'll find out. There's many green on the vine right now.
Does Maytera
Yeah,
Rose have the voice of like an emphysema dude that puts the little thing on his throat?
Who?
Maytera Rose. You know how like in movies when people have like their voice box fucked up from smoking, they put a little thing in and they talk like this.
I
Not
think
just
so.
in
Isn't the lower half of her head gone or something like that?
What?
Yeah, and it says that there's a old Maytera Rose coughed a dry, skeptical sound from the mechanism that had replaced her larynx before Silk had spoken his first word.
Yeah. So she
Oh,
just.
yeah.
Yeah. And this is the person that
See,
like
that makes
terrifies
sense.
Silk.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
perfect
she's
sense.
really unsettling.
If
Oh.
anytime she thinks he's doing something wrong, and she puts all of her anger at losing her lover on him, and then she just goes, nah, when that, yeah, that's scary.
yeah.
And she looks like Darth Vader.
Did
Sandy,
you say
It
like
says
Darth
in the-
Vader?
in the entry about her, it says that her nose, mouth, and right eye are polymer.
God. Man, what's the point, man? Why go on? Like, why?
why go on anything?
Like, why be like replacing parts of your body that to that extent? Like, I guess she needs to be there for a specific reason in the story.
Right. I think that she keeps going because she wants to provide for blood, right?
Oh,
She feels a
I
responsibility.
mean, also, it's like that's just what people do. You just
Yeah,
like keep
true.
going. You know, you're just like, okay, well, and now I'll just replace this, and like now I'll just replace this.
true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seems like a natural kind of humanish
It's
thing to
their thing.
do.
Or transhuman.
If you can,
Yeah.
if you can.
I mean, she's definitely. I feel like there's, I mean, there's a point where it probably, like you replace, like whatever, you replace your knee because your knee joint because you're old, or you get a hip replacement or whatever, and like those are like really common things that we would see now. But then there's like, I don't know, a certain point where like you keep replacing stuff, and that's just it was normal. Like at some point, it's just fully normal to like have a polymer like jaw or nose or eye or whatever.
Or butt?
Or
Yeah,
butt.
I wonder what her butt's made of.
Nice.
She's got a shiny metal ass.
That's right.
Oh, hey,
Stainless
Sanic
steel.
has some things about Silk's mom.
Buns of steel.
So, Sanic says it's a fair guess that Silk's mom is named Mulberry because silkworms like to eat mulberry leaves, and the previous Calday is named Tussar, which is a specific kind of silk.
Oh, I love that kind of shit. Thanks, Chaz. Wait, so is there any reference to a mulberry in the text, or he's just guessing mulberry?
Well, first he says, I don't think her name is ever mentioned. It's always just mother. And then,
Is mulberry?
a bunch later, okay, I think it's a fair guess that Silk's mom is named Mulberry.
Oh, and thanks for answering my question. Well, I had asked that a couple of times. Yeah, there's no mention of a mulberry in this book. Although I think this book is not as exhaustive or certain as the lexicon.
Well, and it's only half of this. Only half of this book is. This is the long
Yeah.
sun, and this is short sun, so it's much smaller as well. What's that sound?
It's our chat.
We're gossiping in chat. There's a subtext that you can't see
I
in the
see.
video.
We're just talking about production.
Production issues.
You can't see that in the video?
It
I don't
probably
think so.
can.
Oh, wait.
But if you can, then it's weird.
It's not that weird.
We can be
No, I
transparent.
know. I'm just.
We can be transparent. That's fine.
But it says everyone in the call, so
Okay. I think,
us in the call.
yeah, I think the little thing that popped up might be because I saw it on my screen and my screen's.
Yeah, if it's on your screen, it's gonna be in the thing.
It's not controversial.
No, it's not controversial.
I'm just
We'll
saying
get a
it's not that sneaky. I'm just saying it's
All
not
right, I
that
thought
sneaky.
maybe it would be sneaky. I didn't know how it worked.
Well, it's not sneaky if Ryan opens it.
I should have tested.
Anyway, is there anything else in chapter 2 that we need to talk about? Oh, so it's like we go to the market, then he goes and gives a little speech, and then he talks to
Marble.
Yeah, he talks to Marble by herself. It's hard for me to keep track of time in all this because we're still on the same day. Yeah?
Yeah.
Like it feels he goes to the market and comes back in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, he just like ran out and came back.
I mean, he just goes. It's kind of just going around the corner to visit the corner store, and he runs into a dude and mugs him on the way.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that one would normally do every day.
If you had faith.
Look at that cat.
Is that
Oh, my underwear. My underwear is in there too. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I should just not have said what it was, and then no one would have known.
Okay, Sanic has searched his digital copies of the books, and the reference to mulberry is that Quetzal wears mulberry robes.
Huh.
Now that is goddamn interesting. If there's a connection between Silk's mom and Quetzal.
That is goddamn
Because
interesting.
Quetzal's the flying...
He's
Right.
Dracula.
The flying
He's a
serpent.
Dracula. He's one of the Draculas.
He's Dracula dead and loving it.
That's right.
Snake Dracula.
I picture Quetzal as being played by Gary Oldman. Who is
Aw.
Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
He's a good
Nice.
actor, Gary Oldman.
He's really,
He is good.
really good.
I like watching him.
I think we could all agree.
The movie that slaps me in the face with how fucking amazing Gary Oldman is True Romance.
Which
That-
character is he in that again?
He plays a drug dealer. He plays
think
like
Quentin
a white
Tarantino
guy
wrote-
with dreads.
I thought that was Brad Pitt.
No. The Brad Pitt plays a drug user.
Okay.
No, like Gary Oldman's like a bad guy boss kind of person.
I need to rewatch it. I used to see
It's
that a lot.
unrecognizable, I feel. He's not Gary Oldman at all. I just think that's amazing. And then in a role that he hates, Zorg in Fifth Element, he does a fucking amazing job anyway, even though he hates it.
What do you mean he hates it?
I thought that he thought that movie was stupid.
I don't know. I never heard that.
I've never heard anybody think that movie.
Like, I went and did that movie, and the whole time I was just like, what the hell is this shit? And then he did an amazing job anyway.
Yeah, he's great in that.
Horrible man, though.
Is
Horrible
he?
The
man.
professional.
He's a bad kind of libertarian.
Ooh,
Gary Oldman is?
Yeah.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah, he lived up to his name.
He lived up to his name.
That's right.
Became
Bummer.
an old man, as we are all doomed to become.
Yeah, perhaps it's inevitable.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, once you make it past 27.
So where does it? What is? So talk to Marble about here.
She asks him to check on Auk.
Okay, that's.
Yeah.
She asked him.
I mean, before we get into, do we want to talk about his whole like interpretation of the
Yes, let's.
If anyone has anything to say about it, I was just rereading that when we were all talking, and
Reread.
it's interesting, but I don't know how it relates to the world of the Long Sun.
It's kind
I
of
think-
masterful
I
how it
don't
seems
know.
like bullshit, and then
Yeah.
as he goes in, it starts being very insightful, incisive analysis.
Which is how
Yeah,
character readings always feel to me. Like you start with, well, this doesn't mean shit. This is a bunch of ridiculous cards, and then you find the meaning. You're like, holy shit, this is so dead on. Like that's just how it works.
Yeah, and he starts with, oh shit, I just lost it. He starts with this point of saying, like, he opens the book and he finds this passage about the birds, and then
He's just analyzing one sentence, right?
Yeah.
Are 10 birds to be had for a song?
Yeah, and he at one point he says, now we return to the lines themselves. The first are 10 birds to be had for a song bears 3 meanings at least. Which maybe he doesn't have like those 3 meanings immediately at hand, but I think that's also, I don't know, thinking about like what we were talking about with the talking cat thing, where it says the stuff that seems like nonsense, but then it has this actual meaning or like sort of misunderstood meaning, and then it has a meaning, like even the nonsensical thing that it says itself has a meaning. This might just be Gene kind of like telling everybody to dig deeper on everything.
Well, and there is a Catholic doctrine of interpretation that every verse has 3 different meanings.
Right. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Which is originally a Judaic thing, right?
I believe.
I mean, it's my understanding that in Judaism, there's basically like infinite meanings for everything, and that everyone has to come up with their own meanings.
well,
Yeah, I mean, it
okay.
seems like that's kind of where Silk is ending up. Like he's like, I know there are at least 3 meanings of this, and then he just starts kind of like rolling with it. He's hopping off the cliff. He's doing his fool thing, and then he's kind of just seeing what sticks.
And I feel like there's a hint of, if the universe is made of words, and then or letters even, any combination of them at all tells you something about the universe.
Right. That's very. What is it? Tamura.
No, it's today. Tomorrow is tomorrow.
Well, Groucho Marx. Well, it is still today. What happened next?
It felt like, this is Sanic. It felt like a reiteration of New Sun, where Dorcas says that there's how the plowman sees it, how the philosopher sees it, and how the increate sees it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, what's Tamura?
Isn't it like
sister?
recombination? It's like, I'm sure that I'm just pronouncing it atrociously. Where you like take a word and you keep recombining the letters in it to find all the secret meanings within the word. It's what's in pi. It's what the Hasids are doing.
Oh, like gematria, like.
But it's not. It's like gematria is where you just bust everything down to numbers. Tamora is where like they're recombining the letters of the name of God to come up with all the possible names of God, because one of them is the true name of God, and that's Tamora.
Ah.
But
Wolf seems to believe
that the name of God is hidden in all the letters of the Torah, so they're recombining. They're trying to find every single combination of all the characters of the Torah, because somewhere the real name of God is hidden in there.
Right.
Found it. What I think it's Bradbury wrote a short story about this, where they find the name of God, and that unmakes the world.
Is Wolf's position, though, that they're all the names of God, that there can't be one, that every single one of them?
I don't know what Wolf's position would be.
That's what I suspect his position is, and
I feel that's my position.
Yeah, I think there's in this part. The second sentence that he reads is, "You have daubed Oreb the raven, but can you make him sing?" And I feel like that's also a very. My feelings about that sentence remind me of Silk, in that, okay, of course, if you paint the raven, he's not a raven. So that would be false to paint the raven the wrong way and expect him to sing like a different bird. But in the same way that you can open a book to any sentence and interpret something, true out of it, isn't painting the raven eventually going to lead you to the truth too? And it's like, there's no answer, and that's confusing, but I feel like that's where I'm at with Silk too right here. It's like Silk does these silly things and these selfish things and these oblivious things, but he always gets further and like closer to where he needs to go, even when he doesn't know why or where he's going.
I had interpreted that line as predicting Oreb's escape from sacrifice and becoming an important character, and like he gets anointed, daubed, but then doesn't get sacrificed and instructs Silk, and at times is Silk. Like it's his function as a speaker, as a singer, as a cantor, that is his importance as a character, not a sacrifice. So I thought that was my interpretation of that line. Just so everybody knows about what I think.
Well, that's what we're here for, Connor.
That's right.
From a self-help point of view, reading this book as self-help, it makes me feel like, like you can try to outsmart or outthink your fate, but that it's much better for you and much faster if you just accept that you're on the path you're supposed to go on.
Yeah.
And that your mistakes are part of that path too, and like you fucking up is still you on the same path you were going to be on anyway. I feel like WOLFE I feel like gives some like solace to a world in which there is forces strong enough to basically give you a fate.
Say that again.
So like in a world where science is real, like there are forces, whether they be like sociological forces locally or biological forces over hundreds of years, which steer an individual's life in certain directions and that are somewhat irresistible. Like we can't resist like the way that knowledge has degraded over 100 years, and now we don't understand what chem people are exactly. Like you can't get around that. To a certain extent, it gives you a fate, but the individual, like to just like to be constantly rebelling against that is just like an illusion that that you can just dismiss it if you know better. That if you know better, then there's no forces that affect you, which doesn't make you unaffected by forces you don't know about. Does
Right.
See where I'm going
Right.
with this? Like reading this book, one of the like nice things I feel like I get out of it is that it's okay if there's some element of fate, and that making the choice to like go with it can be very helpful, even if it appears to be like unscientific.
I'm into that.
Yeah, that like I guess one of the reasons I like Silk is that he seems to have like the way that he's tortured over things is like cute. It's not annoying. Mm-hmm. He's not like the kind of torture that I feel like I get, where I'm like, should I do this or should I do this? Is this what's people are gonna see, or is that what people are gonna see? And that like with Silk, whenever he's tortured, it's there's just such a a bigger perspective going on.
You mean like when he's tortured about not sharing tomatoes?
Yeah, or even like, is it like, or if he like, how am I going to break into this mansion?
Yeah.
Like he's not like tortured in the way of like, okay, should I like sneak around the back or should I go in the front? He's just like, how is this going to work? It's going to work somehow. Like, I don't know what it is, but like, I don't know.
I feel what you're saying. I feel what you're saying. I think that for me, what's attractive about that is that, like, yeah, that thing of like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just gonna do it. Like that seems admirable to me. Like that is what like that's what's exciting about Silk.
He's like an anti-Hamlet.
Also, I really enjoy how that creates this thing of what makes me feel so hopeful about Silk, and why I think I am driven to defend him is because Silk is fucking up what he's doing horribly, which I can identify with. But unbeknownst to him, he's succeeding at something that's so much more important and bigger. So it makes me feel like even when I feel like I'm fucking up, I'm succeeding at a better thing that I'm just too dumb to realize is going on.
Which
Thank
is
you.
as long as you can't see everything about yourself, that has to be the situation. That's like either like you can know everything about yourself and behave in a like a rational, logical way, or you can not know everything about yourself and get help from the outside that you don't even ask for or deserve.
Well, and I think that we're hitting upon a key thing about a thing that is key in a healthy application of both faith and science, and that's humility. You always have to remember that there is more to everything than what you can realize, even yourself and what you're doing. Like, once you can accept that there's more to you and everything else than you know now, and there always will be, that always allows room for growth and adaptation, which is nearly the only strength that we really can have, existence being what it is. And it also gives rise to hope, which is the thing that keeps you going. So that adaptation, which is larger than your can and so that's what's appealing about Silk, is that even when he's fucking up, and even when he's doing things wrong, and even when he's just a man or whatever, like his humility, I really think, even when he's being a self-important, is the whole world created for me asshole, there is this humility that allows him to be like, no, probably not. Everything's huge, and you're a small part of it, and that is hopeful and beautiful, and something that I hope I can find in myself. Sorry to have gotten real weepy about Silk.
It's Gene's fault.
We knew it would happen, Connor.
We knew you loved Silk.
Well, I know that not everybody feels that way about Silk, and I'm excited to hear some refutation.
He like Severian, I feel like, offers hope to deeply, like, perhaps terminally flawed people.
Yeah, and I guess I think Silk's more my kind of an asshole than Severian, perhaps. Or maybe that's just how I like to see myself.
Well, Gene Wolfe was able to be both.
I guess so.
Is this multitude of young scholars to be sold cheaply? And there's this, so in his speech he talks about is an ignorant man may find himself in a position of veneration and authority.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole paragraph
Which
where he
seems to portend his own fate.
Yeah, and in fact even ends with him talking about the raven.
So one thing that I'm actually taking away from this right here is, for all that, like, what Silk is, what he's been trained to do is interpret omens, and how much of what's about to happen is being telegraphed here that he's just completely missing, because even the best omen interpreter can only interpret from the framework that they are currently in, you know?
That's interesting. Yeah, he actually is not exactly interpreting this correctly.
Well, I
But
mean, although we should call into question what correctly is when every interpretation has value.
right. But I mean, he doesn't see that he's the one he's talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in our world there is an exclusive mandate to be correct. That if you're not correct, then whatever you're doing is mistaken and misguided and wrong, and that you need to get correct, and you need to get more knowledge or more research or more like authority or whatever it is, and that Silk's like an example of completely pushing against that like pressure and imperative to be right. That you can be good or do what you're supposed to do without first being right.
I think he tends to look more for like rather than correctness, like justification, and because of his enlightenment, because because he had this experience, he's able to justify just about anything. So he has like this kind of like guiding justification that allows him to continue on this like like obfuscated path. Like he doesn't know what path it is that he's following, but he knows that it's okay because of this experience that he had. And I think that's the polar opposite from how a lot of people experience. Because you're looking for the correct way. You're looking for a clear path forward that has a reason and a logic to it, and that's not at all what Silk is experiencing.
I think there's also an odd relationship with the concept of sin that isn't explicitly explored in this text that much, but it's still there. That like so. There's this. Once you accept that you're a sinner, that you like inherently as a person, you like through original sin, your existence is a sin, and that you are going to sin, that you can't not sin. The whole thing becomes sinning upwards. So like the option to be correct isn't there. You can't be correct. You can only be incorrect in ways that will approach correctness. And that, in an odd way, is kind of a permissive way to look at things. Well, I'm gonna fuck up. I might as well just fuck up as good as I can. You no longer have to worry about fucking up. That's inevitable.
When I was a teenager, I saw sin entirely as this like imposition and this like unfair concept that was meant to hold people back, and I couldn't see it as anything else. And now that I'm almost 40, I see it as being this very clever way of keeping people from massacring each other. In that, like, when you it appears to me right now that like we're in a situation where we've abolished the concept of sin, and so there's people who are right and there are people who are really wrong, and there's nothing to be done except eliminate the wrong people one way or another. And that when you have the concept of original sin, like the people that are wrong are you're wrong too. You're wrong judging the wrong, and that I feel like.
Well, but there's different versions of wrong though, because there's still, even with the concept of sin in that structure, there's still like whether you get saved or not or whatever. Like
there's different kinds of judgment too.
Well,
yeah, it's not just like all the sin isn't the only part of the construct.
Right, there's an attached idea of redemption, how you deal with sin, but I feel like there's multiple ways. Like you can accept the thing of like we're all born with the capacity to do evil, and perhaps even the tendency to do it, and then how you respond to that is like can go a lot of different ways.
If
Like-
I may go out on a radical limb here, and this is not about I'm going to acknowledge this is about what I think, not about what people think. I think that original sin becomes useful when it's that your existence is a sin, that you exist is evil, and it makes it so that your life can only be redemption. Like if you start from the bottom, you can only go up and return home, and that is why there is original sin. We don't want to have just the capacity to do evil. We want to make sure that evil is done. It's not just an option that you could do something by which you need to be redeemed. Like you have to be redeemed. That's it.
So that would that like preclude righteousness? Like people would not be able to, because you wouldn't ever be able to escape original sin. You wouldn't be able to get to a point where you feel like you have something over other people.
Well, I think that it puts you in a situation where like eliminating certain people is not going to eliminate evil. That like you can't get rid of the bad things that happen in a society or that humans do by getting rid of certain people. That it's
like
I guess what I'm saying is like we can look at these things on an individual level and how they affect people psychologically individually, and then you can look at those things and like how those structures work in an individual basis, and then you can look at it how it works in a social basis. And I feel like what Connor's talking about is in a personal basis, and what Ryan's talking about is on a social basis. And I feel like the way that the structures work, like I just feel like historically that hasn't been the case, because you have the idea of sin, but then you also have the idea of like accepting Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, and anyone who isn't doing that is like the idea of like chosen people or whatever, where there's like a group of people who are doing it who like have the right idea and a group of people who have the wrong idea. And regardless of whether you agree that like even those who are part of the chosen people are susceptible or have sin like built in, it still allows for a hierarchy wherein like a certain group of people, you can like justify a certain needing to eliminate a certain group of people or whatever. Like socially, I don't think that it functions the same way as it functions personally.
Totally. I mean,
Clearly, like the Catholic
huge problem when you're worried about other people's sins.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Connor and disagreeing with Ryan. Sorry, but that's my take.
Well, I think in a lot of ways the sin concept of original sin is like the screens in the world, where it's like this old ass thing that had a really specific function that it succeeded at earlier. I guess this is also part. I have this feeling that a lot of problems in society weren't a mistake; they were originally a solution, and that we're so far removed from the problem that they solve. Now the solution is a problem.
Totally.
And
I think that's true for a lot of social structures, for sure.
I think I would almost say like it makes more sense to me logically to assume that rather than to assume, okay, this thing we don't like was put here out of malice, or it was a giant mistake to begin with that never should have happened. Like we've gone off the track, and we could have not had this and still be where we are.
Yeah, it's a hammer that was nailing a sheetrock to some studs, but now is just pounding the sheetrock to smithereens.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. Spoken like a true junk hauler.
Yeah, I suppose so.
You really made a transition there
Yeah.
that I appreciate.
Because we talk about problems, like collective problems, through the medium of television and internet articles and stuff. There's no it has to. There's no incentive to go past the basic, like, oh, there's a problem, here's what's wrong with it, and here's a solution that we can affect immediately today by simply getting rid of all of the bad. We just must purge the things we don't like, and then all that will be left are the things we like.
Which is, you're saying that's a misuse of the concept of sin.
That it's, I feel like it's not just a misuse, but it's like, I guess misuse is the right word. Almost like not actually using it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're treating a symptom rather than a disease. That's like a major problem with our whole way of looking at social problems.
That if you're not sniffling, then you won't have cancer.
I feel
Well,
like
it's like if you're just like, we have to vote Trump out, and that's like gonna solve anything.
Right.
right, exactly. It's a Gnostic versus dogmatic problem, you know? Like, if all it is, if you're coming to a religion and all you're looking for is a list of rules that you can follow, and you know that you're above reproach, you're gonna be fucked up and unhealthy. If you come to a religion and study it and figure out the subtext of what it's saying and what that means for you in terms of you personally in your life and how it's different for other people in their lives, and learn how to empathize with it, then it becomes this whole useful tool. But it requires that philosopher study of it.
Well, it's like
don't use that, it becomes a problem.
Well, it's like our way of looking at these books versus some other types of people's ways of looking at these books. It's like, it's the thing. It's you flatten the hologram.
Yeah.
You flatten the hologram into a two-dimensional shape because you want to be able to because you want to be able to wrap your pea brain around it. But you have to accept that you can't wrap your pea brain around it and spend the time trying anyway.
Yeah, there's not a fun size version of Jane Wolfe. It's all king size.
Yeah. You can't Cliff's Notes it. Every single thing requires every other single thing in order to make sense.
Yeah.
This brings me, I'm thinking now about the animal salesman again here, and the way that he interacts with Silk, and his whole perhaps completely lie story that we don't ever learn anymore about. If the way that we exchange information about our society and each other is all predicated on careers, is there any other place for it to go? Like, isn't it inevitable if, like, the person who brings you the news is trying to make more money, or their boss is trying to make more money, and their job is predicated, they don't, like we see in journalism now, like, papers are closed down. They're bought by big companies if they don't make enough. Like here in, Chicago Tribune or whatever buys the Sun. The Sun buys the city paper, and when the city paper isn't making them a whole lot more money, it gets closed. And so, in this situation, and then whatever, CNN on TV, they've got shareholders, they've got high production budgets. All companies must grow in order to be considered successful. There's like no way. If the guy who sells the animals is in charge of all this stuff, there's no way for it to go anywhere else but like weird lies that are just attempted to move the money faster.
Mm-hmm.
Self-fulfilling like prophecies, and
It means that the role of every job is reduced to like increasing capital, when the value of a newspaper is not the money that it makes.
Right.
That is the value to some people, but I mean, generally, like the general utility of a newspaper is not to make some guy money. It's so the people are informed.
We've bottlenecked our whole culture into being just the stock market.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why we all have to die of the plague now. Is there's like a weird numbers that went down for a second, and they didn't even stay down. I feel like there's like all of these people making way more money than they ever made right now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And but still, it's like, but we got to get back out there and restore everything to the way it was, even if those people at the top aren't suffering. It's
Because endless growth is like
yeah,
the
it's
false
unbelievable how
Endless growth.
short-circuited everything appears to be by this growth thing.
It's also like
Yeah,
our
and it
country
eats
and our
itself.
culture.
It eats itself.
Yeah, we're in
It
a world that's
ultimately
falling
is
apart.
like. It ultimately is like. It destroys itself.
I mean, so well. Go ahead.
The ultra wealthy just haven't figured the like, the ruling class or whatever still hasn't figured out that like, or it's like so removed at this point from like the actual function of like production that it's all gotten so up in the brain and so far away from the body that it hasn't been able to realize that like its wealth actually comes from, like, you can't destroy poor people because that's who makes your wealth.
Right.
But like it's destroy, so it's like eating itself because they're just like, well, fuck the
You're right.
poor people.
It is interesting. Like
And you're
the
like, but
mythology,
what
like
are
the
you gonna do?
mythology of how capitalism works is now exactly as you said, Jen. It's like starting to eat itself because the mythology is it's generated by the great minds, right? Like on the great chosen ones on top who are just like having all this wealth because we're great, and now the bottom of it is starting to crumble, which has happened before in human history. Like it's pretty regular if you like look at all societies. Like
But
it's
they never
pretty common.
invented the internet. That's why they were clearly not as smart as we were.
Right, but the money just comes from your technological innovation, but it doesn't. It comes from people
Labor.
working, labor, right?
Labor.
And what you're extracting is surplus value.
But the
from
point serves an interesting function in this, kind of, perhaps. Kind of like a zooming in. We've zoomed in a couple of orders of magnitude as we're watching that curve of endless growth climb. So now we don't, a smaller amount of growth, because things have gone back down to zero, kind of. A smaller amount of growth is felt greater. So like we were reaching this ceiling of growth potential. So we zoomed in so we can still have more, we can value less growth over more time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're looking at the granular, like the pixelated
Exactly.
diagonal line. You're looking at the
So
pixel.
that way, the plague kind of keeps kicking that can down the road a little longer, and the top can be top longer because they've refined what it means to be on top and
One of my
how
favorite,
bottom you could be. You could be more bottom. We found
Right.
more bottom for y'all.
Yeah,
Good news.
Mo bottom, mo problems.
there you go.
Turns out, good news. It turns out things can get worse.
Yeah, and like Musk and Bezos and stuff have billions more dollars than they did in February.
I was totally confused which Musk we were talking about for a second.
You know what?
Yep.
Right.
We got two villains named Musk now, huh?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Two
Ooh.
fucking weirdo creeps.
Can we just start calling Bezos Blood now?
Yeah,
But
basically who he is.
lest we forget, we're gonna need a name for Bill Gates because he doesn't get off the hook.
Yeah, that's true.
We've all agreed multiple times, and I will now reaffirm that we all agree that Bill Gates, fuck Bill Gates.
I
Bill Gates
think
is-
Bill Gates sees himself
That is a stance.
as Quetzal.
That is a stance of the podcast. For the show, the television show.
That's right.
It is. It is
TV
known.
show.
Bill Gates clearly thinks in his own mind that he's Quetzal, where he's like, I'm not like these people, and perhaps I even feed on them, but I'm the good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm
I
leading
really
to
love
the promised
this
land where we
laughing
can all
Jordan.
feed on.
I really love the laughing Jordan, spaceless Jordan screen of the ceiling.
Yeah.
While we're
The
talking
laughing
about
curtain rod.
while we're talking about Musk, poor Johnny Depp.
What?
What?
You guys
Really?
haven't been following what's going on with Johnny Depp?
No, what's going on with Johnny Depp?
Oh,
Oh,
man!
no.
So he's in this like court battle with his ex Amber Heard, who's
Right.
he's like suing for like slander and libel because she told everyone he beat her. And
Right.
so in the court case, all of these people are
Wait,
coming
did
out.
did she also date Elon Musk though?
She cheated on it. She slept with Musk while she was with Depp, and that was
Oh!
perhaps the end of their relationship. And the
Oh, God.
catalyst to this big
What a
falling
life.
out is that he found out she was sleeping with Musk, and they've put up security camera footage of Musk and Amber Heard cuddling while Johnny Depp was filming a film, and so it's like the whole world has seen that Johnny Depp was cucked by Musk with this. But we're also learning about how insane Amber Heard is, and how like she shit in his bed and beat the hell out of him all the time.
I did hear about the shit.
And meanwhile, you have to have this thing going on at the same time as the Ghislaine Maxwell thing, so you can just not think about Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, it's definitely a bread and circus with like poop in the bed and billionaire infidelity and stuff. It's got it all.
This is great.
Yeah, this like wonderful man that used to entertain people when he was a young child is now like this weird. There's a picture going around of him having fallen asleep on the couch and spilled ice cream on himself.
Oh.
That's like apparent. Certain news outlets are like, oh, Johnny Depp has fallen so far. Look at him with ice cream on his pants. He doesn't even know someone's taking a picture of him right now. It's
Wow.
it's an incredible story.
I mean, all of that kind of explains why he's so weird. Like, he just, like, right? Like, he's not that weird, but, like, mostly his like, professional choices of, like, from Pirates of the Caribbean on, right? It's like, what the fuck is going on? And so it's because he was under duress.
Has he been in anything besides Pirates of the Caribbean?
Like in the Willy Wonka remake, like just in Tim
Oh,
Burton
yeah.
movies.
Yeah,
I guess.
he's in Tim Burton movies.
He
Oh,
was in a Harry
Burton
Potter
movies. It
prequel
just
movie
makes-
also.
It just makes sense. He's been under duress.
He's under duress.
He probably doesn't want to get out of bed, and Tim Burton is like, Johnny, man, I need you.
Yeah.
Nobody else
Come
can
on.
be Wonka. Come on, you gotta come.
Yeah.
Helena's gonna be there.
we're
Helena
finally
really
re-
wants to see you.
We're finally remaking Willy Wonka. Sorry. Like, it makes Tim and Helena are his friends, and they are.
Tim Burton's like, I have a pound of Coke for you every day, Johnny.
Tim
He's like,
Burton's probably
all
just
right.
sitting around trying to think of things to get Johnny out of the house. Like that's why he's making all these weird, not great movies. Is he's like, what can I get that Johnny will have to come out for? Okay, Willy Wonka, a Mad Hatter. Like I know this will get Johnny out of bed.
Dark Shadows.
Yeah, I know Johnny
You were
won't
born
say
for Dark
no.
Shadows, Johnny.
We just want Johnny to come out and play so that he can moping by himself in his house.
Yeah.
What games does Johnny like? We'll play that today.
So if Bezos is blood and Musk is Musk, that means that Bezos is who's the top in their relationship in the book of Blood and Musk? It's Blood, right?
Oh,
blood,
Where's
yeah.
I don't.
I
don't know.
Blood thinks it's blood, but I think at some points Musk knows it's Musk.
Is Musk a power bottom?
Yeah.
That track.
Wait a minute. I haven't read this for a while. Isn't Musk dirty dealing? Isn't he working for somebody? Is he a Trivaganti agent in some way or something? Why is he studying those flyers? What the hell is this book about?
Yeah.
I literally don't know at all.
Yeah, I don't know if I got that Musk was a double agent or anything, but that doesn't mean he's not.
But why is he studying flyers?
So Lemur wants him to
Everybody
capture
wants-
flyers.
Everyone wants the propulsion device
Oh, wait, so
Yeah.
is he working for the government?
because
Is
they're
he
in each other's.
manipulating blood for the Council of Monkeys?
Yes.
Holy shit! And Musk studies and funds propulsion rockets in real life.
It's perfect.
Prophetic.
It is prophetic.
Oh boy,
We are living in the world.
we are starting a religion.
How convenient that we don't even have to create our own holy text.
That's right. It's all there.
And Grimes kind of looks like a bird.
Totally.
Well, you're making the argument that Grimes is Oreb.
No.
No,
Grimes,
Falcon,
Grimes
because he's a falcon.
yeah,
Oh,
Grimes is
right.
one of Musk's birds.
Right.
She does look
Okay.
like a falcon. She could be a flyer. She could fit.
Yeah, she could be Yolar. Yolar.
Yolar.
If she got to pick one of the names out of this book to be her name, she would definitely pick that one.
Yeah, that's probably.
Lots of vowels. Well, here we are now at this part of the conversation.
Is there any more chapter 2 to talk about?
That was chapter 2.
That was chapter.
We're
I
not
honestly
even
kinda
all the way
like rolling
through.
through it like this.
I feel bad for people who watch this, but
It's fun.
Sorry, Dadbot.
I love to participate.
We
Yeah,
started
no.
this session out with us talking about how we look back on it and we think it's pretty good, and now we circle back like this
It's
sucks.
It's good.
It
It's
gets
better than you think.
They all get up to like over 100, right?
Look, there's always nuggets. It's just you have to really dig sometimes to find the nuggets. But the nuggets are good.
Well,
Maybe
that's,
we should make short versions of these videos where it's like 15
Supercuts.
minutes.
Super
Yeah,
cuts.
supercuts.
Yeah,
Bad
That'd be
idea.
a good
Yeah,
idea.
but who would do that?
I will if I break my leg.
there you go.
so that's taking the place of World of Warcraft?
Yeah, I would say maybe I could play.
You
World of
divide your
Warcraft.
time.
Did you get World of Warcraft?
No,
If you get into World of Warcraft, you can't divide your time. That's
Yeah, no.
it doesn't
I
work.
used to have an addiction many years ago, and I always said to myself that if I got hit by a city bus and had to be convalescent for a while and was getting like a settlement paid out for getting hit by a city bus, that would be the conditions in which I would be allowed to go back to Azeroth. But I think it would be a
Ryan,
good.
it's the same thought, but it's just like the last 10, 15 years of my life can just be indoors playing, video games.
What
Like
if we all?
you're allowed. Like, what else are you gonna do? Last 10 years, you're not doing anything. You're too old. No one
What
wants
if
to
we
see
all
you.
played the Final Fantasy MMO? What if we all played that one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But now
We
I'm
don't
gonna.
have to build gamer rigs.
It's good. Nursing
It's
homes
not
would be way
play
cooler.
video games with me. It's not fun playing video games with me. I'm very bad.
I'm pretty bad at ones that require a lot of like fast reflexes and button pressing, like
I
fighting
can't play
games.
shooting-based games. They don't
Shooting
work
games.
for me. Like,
Yeah, I hate being
Yeah.
shot at by someone I can't see.
I can't tell what I'm looking at when I'm playing a video game.
You're straight up just lost.
What's
No, I
happening?
would play Skyrim and people would be like, "Don't step on that trap," and I would have no idea what they were talking about every single time. And I would set off every trap. But I
Yeah.
was a fucking bruiser, so I lived.
Like Silk,
That's right.
Silk the Bruiser.
setting off every trap and living.
Well,
All
we
right.
can talk about the last bit, the failed sacrifice.
Yeah.
Is that in this chapter?
Yeah.
No, it's in 3, right?
Oh.
Or I don't know actually.
What?
Oh yeah, he says he'll talk to Marble after
Oh, maybe you're right.
the sacrifice, and then 3 starts with the sacrifice.
Oh no. No, the
Oh, no,
sacrifice
no.
is in 2.
It looks like it gets fucked up at the end here.
Yeah. It's at the end of chapter 2.
It's at the end of
Okay,
2,
yeah.
yeah.
And in this situation, he starts the ritual, and then he realizes when he's about to kill the bird, so it starts struggling furiously. A strangled half-human cry echoes from the distempered walls of the mansion, and the wretched night chuff went limp in Silk's grasp. So it basically just like flips out and then faints, and then they just assume that that it just died.
Yeah.
And do we see this as like? I guess there are probably multiple ways to think about it, but this could be Oreb tricking them, like in a sort of like very Raven like way, playing possum, so that it does not die, or it could be a very human kind of like they described his cry as half human, so it could be this very like almost human response to impending trauma, and then like just basically a panic attack and then a faint spell, or maybe he actually died. I guess that's another option with WOLFE.
It's a very interestingly Jesus-y thing for Oreb to do.
Right.
Jesus-y.
He
Right.
dies and is reborn.
I just like that word. I like the word Jesus-y.
We could use, it's a very Azazel-y thing for Oreb to do if you'd prefer.
What?
What about Yeshua-ish?
We could do that. We could do that.
What about Aslan?
Any scapegoat
Yeshua.
that you want. We could say it's Trumpy.
What about
Yeshua.
Gandalf?
Ooh.
Okay, sorry. Continue with what you were saying.
That's it. It's Jesus-y.
It's
Yeshua.
also
Yeah,
what's his
sure.
name? Isaac, right? Abraham
Sure.
Isaac. An
Yeah.
aborted sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. Although that one's not aborted because Abraham thinks that Isaac is already dead. But that would be funny. That would be a very funny version of that story where Isaac just like tricks his dad.
Isaac's just like, oh.
If
That would completely change how the story works. But
ever I'm about to be killed by someone, I'm going to try that. I'm gonna fake die in front of them already.
you see how it goes.
Like clutch at my chest and die, and hopefully they'll be like, "Well, don't got to beat him now."
I mean, the thing is, they also probably could have checked to see if he was dead, and they decided, and they just like, I don't know how.
Well, he does. He just doesn't do a very good job. He
Okay.
says like
Well, they're all horrified and embarrassed.
he held the flaccid body to his ear, then brushed open one blood-red eye with his thumb.
Okay.
That's
But I
his
mean-
version of checking.
I mean, his whole job is killing animals, so like it seems like he would have a pretty good grip on whether an animal is alive or not, right?
But if his job is to kill animals, his job isn't to keep them alive. So all he would know is just like hit something. Oh, just like cut its head off. That's all he fucking knows. He doesn't know because the way that they kill things, they fucking just like get in there. They're not like, oh, let's use some subtle poisons or use some like little tricks. They're just like, bam, no head. They're just like cut him and there's blood everywhere. And then they start hacking their hooves up.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
they're
I guess.
not- they're-
Yeah,
these
it's
are
not a subtle thing.
Like, this isn't like being a doctor where it's like, oh, what's the difference between an alive thing and a dead thing? They're just like, no, it's either on the fire or it's not.
And I guess, I mean, if the bird had done this intentionally, it would have been taking a bit of a risk because, like, even the Sybils are like, you're gonna burn it, right? Like, you don't like it's that like we're still gonna do this, right? And only Silk is like, no, like this isn't like we can't do this. Like now this is not an option for us. And so if the bird, it's clearly a very smart bird. Maybe it has some deep knowledge of scripture, or because it's part of this kind of like omen augury structure. It has some kind of understanding that it won't die in this situation.
Or the situation's like a reflection, like a reverse reflection of the Isaac Abraham situation in that like Isaac and Abraham are occurring when the world is first being born and things are like, you know, people are close to the gods and things are looking up and getting better, and we're in a position the opposite of that. Things are crumbling and falling down and we're very far from the gods. So rather than God, like you're talking with a bicameral mind thing, like rather than God being able to say in your head, hey, don't kill Isaac, we have to be communicated to in a different way.
To take another tack on this, it's kind of Silk's own failing and flaw in personality that saves Oreb here, right? Because, like you said, the Meteras are like thrown on the fire, and Silk's like, wait, no, I feel like there's must be some kind of fiddly little dogma we're supposed to follow here. You, old one, don't you know some bit of fiddly dogma that we must supposed to follow here? And they're like, no, we don't know what to do. And he's like, well, we got to look up what to do. And that's why the bird doesn't get burnt, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And which is what Silk is constantly doing. Like, what is the fiddly bit of dogma I should adhere to now? All the time.
Yeah, which ends up helping him huge because Oreb is like so important to the story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Add
it definitely
speed.
makes more people want to read this book, I think.
Yeah. Add word, add speak.
I think he's one of my top 2 favorite characters, I think. Top 3.
Yeah. Orb's
Cool.
amazing.
Yeah, I love Oreb.
Or
Only
up.
cats can say
Or
2
up.
words.
Or up.
He's the least long-winded.
Short-winded in the long sun.
I want someone to write a version of these books just from Oreb's perspective.
Probably not be very good.
Maybe you should do it.
I will. It'll be a blog. I'll make it a blog.
Writing a short story entirely in 2-word sentences sounds like a exciting project.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
would Oreb write and speak in the same way though?
Yes.
I was about to ask that.
There's a passage in here where it's from Oreb's perspective and it's not
Yeah.
words.
But it's not Oreb writing it, it's Horn writing
Oh,
it.
you're right. It is Horn writing it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Never-
the 2 words, that's Orb's
Never
brand.
mind.
Hornred.
Never mind.
Yeah. I
Forget it.
I will say that I have what I feel is really good reason to believe that Oreb would write the same way that he talks.
Okay.
Do you care to elaborate on that?
No.
It's his brand.
Yeah.
It's very on brand. He could write differently, but it wouldn't make sense for him monetarily to do so.
Yeah. He's beholden to his shareholders. Man, I watched both the Fire Festival documentaries last night.
Oh yeah.
Both of them? Wow.
Yeah. I really feel like they should be taken as a diptych. Anyways, that's crazy. And I was whatever. I just watched a whole bunch of influencers try to explain what branding is and what their brand in particular was, and that was amazing.
That sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me want to watch it.
Yeah,
What's your favorite personal brand? From
I mean, they're all the same.
right.
They all said the exact same thing, which is wellness, health, and positivity. It was just like a series of beautiful people who all looked the same, saying, my personal brand is about wellness and like health and basically positivity.
This is why I have to go on vacations all the time and take pictures of myself on there.
Right. I get paid to look like these 3 things so other people can see that and hope to be them.
Yep.
While they do this.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to sideline things into the Fire Festival.
I think actually it's more like this.
Yeah.
But those movies did fill me with glee.
Because it's just rich people getting fucked.
Yeah, I just giggled through the whole thing. A huge smile on my face. It was amazing. Everybody,
Did you guys watch-
everybody
I
deserves
just-
everything they were getting except for the people of Barbados.
I just finished watching that show, Schitt's Creek, and
Oh,
I loved it so much.
It's very good.
And I'm
Canadian
sad that it's
comedy.
over. What?
Canadian comedy.
Canadian. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm like kind of sad now.
You know,
I've never
I
really
keep
been like
hearing people
sad
say
that
it's
a
so
show
good,
was
but it never really like, makes me laugh that hard. But I love Catherine O'Hara, but I don't know, it just never clicked with me. I couldn't.
people
can't get
say
into it.
that both her and Eugene Levy put in their best performances of their careers in that show.
I gotta try again.
I love it.
Phenomenal in that show. Like she is unreal good.
She's so fucking funny. I think that show is fucking hilarious. But it also, like, in the later seasons, gets, like, so shockingly, like, poignant, where you're just like, what the fuck? Why am I, like, crying right now? You're like, what the fuck? Like, I'm crying over this TV show that's
Gotta
supposed to
try
be
again.
funny. It's kind of, like, shocking. I was a little bit shocked by it.
Plus Chris
How
Elliott's in that.
emotionally invested I got in it.
Oh yeah, Chris Elliott is in that.
Yeah, I really do have to rewatch that. I mean, I love the people in that.
Chris Elliott's weird,
I
guys.
thought it was fucking hilarious.
You ever
And then
see
also
Cabin
I
Boy?
cried.
I've never seen Cabin Boy.
It's
weird.
worth checking out. Anyway,
But now I want to go back
Just to
and
make
rewatch
sure that
all
we
of
know this conversation should be over. Have you all seen Captain Ron?
it. No.
Well, we
No.
definitely
I
gotten to the
I
end
have
of the
seen
conversation because I brought it up.
Hey, Chris Elliott as Silk and Kurt Russell as Ock, huh?
There we go. I love it. I love it.
I think that could work.
that would be great.
Good coloring.
It's true. Chris
Oh, yeah,
Elliott does play
Blonde.
a very good oblivious fool. So
Yeah. He should be put in at something I feel like that would be as sweet and deep as adaptation of Long Sun.
I do keep thinking about how great the name Roland Shit is as a character name. I just think it's so funny. Roland Shit. I don't know. I love that show. I'm giving it my endorsement.
Okay, so chapter 3. We've talked for
We're
over
not-
2 hours about chapter 2.
we're not gonna get through chapter 3.
No, we have half an hour left.
That ain't gonna happen.
Oh man, but great stuff happens in chapter 3. We're gonna meet Ock, right?
Yeah. I would
So
think
it's-
so.
Let's do.
I
Let's
really love Ock.
Yeah, I mean, we can start talking about chapter 3.
Yeah, what are the boundaries of chapter 3? How far does it go? It takes him all the way to that bar where he sees a murdering.
Is the shriving not the end of 3?
The end of 3 is a long one.
The end of 3, he is talking on the glass to Musk at the
Yeah.
at office place.
He's in Ock's apartment or whatever.
Oh my.
He calls up the place he's about to go rob.
Masterful.
I mean, you want to keep them on their toes. Right? When you're robbing a place, you want them on their toes.
Just gotta let him know.
The part immediately after this, I guess, where Ock is like taking Patera Silk to the mansion and is sort of like, all right, you're going to fuck this up. It's not going to work, but here's what you have to do. That to me is such a Ronsky moment that I see Ock as Ronsky for pretty much the entirety of the book. I could like when something about that exchange of like the dude finding the criminal, and then it turns out that the criminal is like, all right, you crazy priest, here's what I will help you do this because I will never forgive myself if I don't. I don't know, something in my brain I see Ock as Ronsky, as physically.
Yeah.
Although we're all too old to be any of these people. They're so much younger than us.
How old is Ock?
He's aren't they all like 26? Let's see. Maybe it says in this companion
I think
volume
it did say
that I
at-
ordered
and
from
it-
the internet.
at the end of the whole thing when Horn comes on, he's like, "Yeah, everyone is this old." I feel like that happens. I might be wrong.
Hey Jordan, is something covering up your microphone?
I don't know.
Is there like a thing on top of it?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it doesn't look like there is, but I'm sure that like something is weird.
Yeah, your voice. I don't know if it's just me. Your voice sounds tiny.
No mention in the companion volume. Hey Shazbot, how old's Doc? In 5 minutes we'll know.
I don't know why I got the sense that he's older. I guess just because he seems experienced.
Not
I think
hard to
I
be more
imagine-
experienced than Silk.
I think he's more experienced because he's poorer.
Yeah, it's not hard to be more experienced than Silk. He's
Yeah.
never like done anything but the things that he does every day.
He's not married or has children, which makes me think that he's young.
Well, and the Mayteras like remember him a lot from when he was young,
Yeah.
or like when he was a child and when he was there. So that makes it feel like it was more recent. But maybe it isn't because
Well, they're all old.
the Sibyls like have this really
Mint's
long.
not old.
Oh, Mint's not old.
Hmm.
Well, she's not old. How old do we think Mint is? She's not
Mint's
old
middle
compared
age.
to the others.
Mint is 35.
Two.
She specifically says that she's 35.
There we go.
Well, so any of us could be close to playing Mint.
But everybody else is like 26, 23.
Right.
It's just a thing that blows my mind sometimes when I'm reading this book.
Well, and Severian's like 17.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's an
I was saying just last night. I was saying something about how crazy it is that when the Beatles broke up, the oldest one of them was 29.
That is weird.
When the band was over,
Yeah.
and George Harrison was like 26.
And he never had to do it.
George Harrison was 26 when the Beatles broke up. I just find that like shocking and terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of those albums from that band. They
How
must have
old
just
was
been recording all the time.
I feel like Michelangelo was like 22 when he did the Pieta. Or something like he's at a very weirdly young age, and the Pieta is huge. It's so much bigger than it looks like in a picture.
Yeah, but teenagers didn't exist at that point.
That's
You
also
know, like-
very true.
You hit
Yeah,
12
you-
and you're just an adult. So,
Yeah, and like at 45, you're dead.
yeah.
What? One thing that I learned is that in the Middle Ages, if you didn't like catch a disease or get killed in a war, you lived till 70 something. They had lots of people live
But
till
that
the
was-
70s in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, but
Not lots.
you
That was a
probably
couple
were going
big
to die
ifs.
in the first 5 days.
That was a couple big ifs too.
Right, but it wasn't like everyone's life got truncated. You know, it was like the animal was still capable of the same thing. It just the conditions weren't conducive to hanging around that long. But it wasn't like
Yeah.
people evolved and a biological ability to survive longer.
No, of course, but there was a lot more disease and less idea about what disease was, and like less ability to avoid disease.
Well, but do we maybe have diseases now that you wouldn't have got then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
So I mean, it's hard to tell if there was how much of it has been a trade-off.
Well, I mean, disease and like virus and infection kind of grows with the population, right? So smaller populations, it's probably a more limited number of things that you could contract, but now the likelihood of you contracting one of the more numerous kinds of things is lower. So I don't know, maybe generally we can expect to live longer now.
It's sort of
And
all of
prosper.
technology and advancement and progress that support keeping us all alive also produce like byproducts and waste and toxin that affect, that endanger us in different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's building up a race of super jellyfish to replace us.
True.
Or octopus. They're very smart. And they got poison drill beaks.
But
Yeah, but
jellyfish is plastic.
But the jellyfish are like in extreme numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
Like extreme.
The jellyfish are coming. They're going to kill us all.
Maybe it's just plastic floating in the water and it looks like jellyfish from above.
No, they're doing really well.
Ryan,
In
that's
these
equally as scary to me. Honestly,
What did you say?
that's equally as scary to me.
Sentient
The plastic.
To think that we're that stupid.
Right. The floating garbage continent. Maybe it's just a floating jellyfish continent.
Yeah. The land of the jellyfish.
Just living on top of them.
I mean, that's basically what Portuguese men of war, right?
Yeah, they're enormous.
One day it'll be everything.
Jellyfish are fucked up because when you're in the water, you can't see them. They're just clear.
And you know,
Unless you have prescription goggles.
the only cure for jellyfish is your partner's piss. Whatever partner you happen to be with at that time.
Someone else's? It has to be someone else's?
Your partner's.
It can't be yours.
I suppose it could. I don't know.
Might
I
be
won't about myself.
might be a logistical issue,
Yeah.
depending on where you get stung.
The closer to your heart,
away.
the more
Life
you
finds
need a loving partner to provide the urine.
I think it's just trusted. Doesn't have to be loving. It could be just trusted.
What if it's neither? What if it's
I guess
neither?
when I think of the nodules in my head, I think of like black jellyfish that fly through the air.
Yeah, totally.
They're like the air version of jellyfish, I guess, because
Yeah.
like jellyfish themselves are very like liquid, but then the nodules are a little more like
Smoke.
like a gas.
I can see it.
Well, there's no nodules in the world.
That we know of.
There's no predators in the world, right? There's no like mountain cats or wolves or anything.
Yet.
Well, they're the
What
linked,
really?
but
Is
I
there-
guess those aren't really a natural
Yeah.
thing.
They're a custom
I
job.
think that there are predators on the world. It's just that they're all frozen embryos.
Oh, I guess there's hawks.
Yeah, hawks. Yeah,
But not to humans.
Yeah, but they could have bought those, like, you know.
Yeah,
made them.
the hawks could just be domesticated hunting tools and never occur in the quote unquote wild.
Hmm.
Although they're big enough to take down a flyer.
That's true. Yolar.
Yolar.
But it might not be hard because you just have to, like,
Yeah.
you have to, like, break something.
Yeah, just break that thing.
Yeah, they're tiny little jockeys of people.
Are the flyers just from the Skylands?
I guess so.
We see the land of the flyers at some point, don't we?
You
I haven't
kind
got
of-
there yet.
So, like, it's really weird, like you know that they go there, but they stop the story right before they go there and then pick it up again as they're leaving. And they're like, whoa, wasn't that awesome? I can't believe we got all this cool stuff.
That's right. That does happen.
But I think something does happen there. I know that something does happen there, though.
Yeah, but they won't show us. They'll
Maybe
only
they
tell
just
us.
think about it later. Someone's thinking about it later, maybe.
Well, and maybe makes sense. Like if it's the equivalent of heaven, then you can't do heaven justice with words.
Yeah. But I guess the question is, are they people taken from the population of the world, of like, not mainframe, or are they people who, like, is that another group of people who live up there. They must be just another group of people who live up there, but we're they were just put there.
Well,
Typhon.
I'm having some interesting thoughts about so like doesn't it seem like the Flyers know more about what's going on than anybody else?
Yeah, definitely.
And why is that?
Because they're
Because
like
they're
angels.
there, they live there.
And
They can
it's
see
interesting
more.
that the Flyers all have Irish names. And I think that this might be a reference to Irish monks keeping writing alive during the Dark Ages, and like the whole Irish are the saviors of civilization. They wrote the Bible. Conspiracy theory.
What?
Yeah, because the Irish kept were the ones who copied manuscripts and kept writing alive. They kind of were able to. They can take credit for writing the Bible as it stands today.
Holy shit.
Because that process also included a lot of manipulation and editing, and like, we have letters of local bishops to Rome saying, I have this problem in my congregation, and Rome saying, well, then cut out that part of the Bible, idiot, and stuff like that. So that's why I think maybe I think that the because of the Flyers as these angelic preservers of what's left of the truth of the world, that's why he went with these Irish names. What do you guys think? I just had that idea right now, so if it sucks, I don't care. I'm not married to it. You can say that that's stupid without insulting me. One time only. I'm giving this to you for free, guys.
Is Eola an Irish name?
Yes. I don't know what it is. Oh, this is a word only part.
Eagle means eagle.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
And he flies like an eagle to the sea.
That's very astute.
Time keeps on ticking.
Yeah, Gene was listening to a lot of Steve Miller Band around this time. So
I think that we all were. I know that I was. And what was this, 1994 or something?
is it that late? I thought it was earlier than that.
No. This is a 90s book, baby.
I think so.
Yeah,
93.
I was listening to TK99 on the FM dial. That was a joke for just Jordan. Because we shared radio stations as children.
I got it.
Are you both from the same town?
We're from the same area.
I was born in the same area, but I moved a little later.
Cool.
And
Do we want to say anything specific about Chapter 3 today?
It's not going to happen, man.
I guess we're on a.
I love this chapter, though. I'm so into the shriving. I love the shriving.
You want to talk about it?
I don't have anything to say, really, at this point.
Just that you love it.
I just love every time they reveal stuff about the religion of this. I'm fascinated. I don't feel like I understand it entirely at all. It's just so neat to me. And I just I constantly wrestle with, like, there's so much Catholic stuff in here, but there also is this very Lutheran almost critique of the Catholic Church going on at the same time, with the problem of following dogma and the degradation of the notion of sin, that and like a personal responsibility and a personal relationship with the divine, that just seems so interestingly Protestant in this book to me. And the role of shriving is interesting because I feel like the Proddies don't have that quite as much. Isn't that right, Mark?
Yeah, not really. I mean, there's forgiveness is something that happens on an individual level.
It's not a sacrament.
Right. I mean, I guess there are certain things that kind of call back to it, but yeah, like you don't have to go through any kind of medium to achieve forgiveness. It's something that happens completely on an individual basis.
Yeah. And then as a Catholic, it's really shocking to me in this, like, such a recognizably Catholic system to find this thing where, like, the priest then turns it around and it's like, okay, parishioner, now I'm going to confess to you. It's like, what?
Right.
What? Like, I was definitely in some way scandalized when I first read that.
That was even a little surprising to me, but I like it. I mean, I think that it sort of levels the playing field a little bit.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And again, it has a faint air of Protestantism about it to me.
I feel like there's a thing similar to like don't eat the pork that happens with the confession too, where like imagining a leader of a group of people who has to verbalize what they feel guilty and know they've done wrong once a week or once a month, as compared to someone who never has and can only, like, that happens entirely silently with them. It's not like proof against a bad person, but it does seem like a nice little like security measure that if you force people who are powerful to say out loud to another human something they did wrong, it's going to take root in their head in a stronger way than when they just talk themselves out of like feeling bad.
Right.
Yeah, what if they never feel bad?
Well, yeah, like having to say out loud a thing that they should feel bad for definitely seems like one tiny bit of like help in the right direction that may, I guess, and hopefully if you
Fake it
have
till
to
you
do
make
it
it.
every month, eventually
Right.
it sticks.
Yep.
But yeah, then it gets, in an institutional setting, it eventually becomes a different thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it stops being therapy and starts being snitching.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, that's like it's important that therapists are like in therapy themselves. Like that's a pretty. I mean, I guess I don't know how common it is, but it seems like it really should be.
Certain schools, it's required, I think. Like
Yeah.
certain types of like in Jungian, you have to be analyze yourself.
Right. Well, transference is like a really big part of the like Jungian therapeutic model. Like, I mean, my therapist is Jungian, and so like she'll
Nice.
talk about her own therapy experiences, and that's really positive for me. Like, it's very helpful to be interacting with someone who's not operating from this like higher level. I mean, like, there's a higher level of understanding of the process, but there's not this there's not a hierarchy of like self mastery or something there. It's like, look, we're all working on this together, but here's some insight that maybe I've got. And I think that sort of does give you this like more level playing field. Although notably, my therapist is also Catholic, so who knows?
It's funny that the root of psychology is psyche, which means soul. And so like in the case of the priest and in the case of the psychotherapist, you have someone whose job is to take care of the soul.
Soul doctor.
Yeah. And
Did we already talk about my anecdote about Adam encountering the EMT on the street with the homeless man? All right, so Adam was walking down the street. He comes across this homeless man in an EMT. And the EMT was like, sir, you have to tell me what hurts. I can't help you until you tell me what hurts. Where on your body does it hurt? And the man, and the man's like, my body hurts. And then he's like, okay, then I can help you. And then The man says, "No, it's my soul. My soul hurts." And the EMT's like, "I can't help you if it's your soul that hurts. I can only help your body. So you have to help me where your body hurts. I can't help your soul." And I just think that's a beautiful Baltimore image.
Yes.
The
Of
man
course,
crying
Adam.
out.
Of course, Adam would have come across that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, it's an image of all places, like the person who's confused and crying out for healing of the soul, and like the representative of the state who doesn't get paid enough to fix that problem, being like,
I can't
"Hey,
do that.
Come on, can you give me the problem I'm trained for?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
But they don't got that problem on the world. Oh, wait, no, they exactly have that problem.
Ooh.
Well, what next? What do you guys want to talk about next?
Chapter
Who's
4?
next? We're not done with this. There's so much more in this, right? We got to talk about him seeing Musk. And how it's interesting that he immediately knows that Musk is a killer. Maybe it's not interesting. Like for all that Silk is stupid, he has this. He has great intuition.
It's all he has.
Yeah, but that's interesting how it works. How he can just be this like oblivious fellow and still like get the things that are important somehow. Like
Maybe it's because he's an engineered embryo.
yeah, let's look at, if we may, let's look at Silk's powers, right?
He's got charisma 18.
He's got charisma 18. Fast talk.
That's like his main power is that everyone like wants to help him all the time. Like everyone he encounters pretty much likes him.
I feel
Even
like I've
Blood.
read that
Not
it appears the
Musk.
root of people's appreciation and wanting to help him is that every situation he's in, when he has like choices, he chooses the thing that's not his own self-interest. Like his way of dealing with, like his way of getting out of a problem is like, oh, obviously I should do the thing that is not the thing for me. That's the right, that would be the right thing to do. And people respond to that, and like they can see that in him, and they see evidence of it, and are like, well, this guy needs help. He's not going to help himself, so why maybe I'll help him. It kind of reminds me a little bit of in New Sun, the whole like reverse of master and servant. Like when you let someone serve you, they're in your debt. They feel a debt to you.
Right.
People do that with Silk a little bit, where they're like, this little guy isn't going to take care of himself. He's out here worrying about every other thing. Like, it'd be so easy for me to take care of him right now.
He also apparently has an inborn fighting ability.
Karate?
Swordsmanship.
Born with karate.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I wonder, I mean, we definitely see him like hurl himself from a window and like, climb up all of these walls and stuff. And I wonder how much of that is like, I mean, I guess he has a lot of sort of physical prowess. In the very first scene, we watch him like, like whatever, get a one-handed hook shot 3-pointer or whatever from half court, something crazy.
That is a very good
But
point. The first thing we see him doing is talking to God while scoring a massive goal.
Yeah, and just like winning a game. And that seems to happen kind of a lot, where it's just like you don't really have any context for him having this kind of physical prowess.
Yeah, he's not working out.
I think it's part of his like obliviousness is that he just like assumes that he can do it, and he just does it, and it works. And he never really like meets his own limitation because he doesn't understand that that's even a possibility.
Yeah.
And he has this thing of like, if it needs to be done, then God will let me do it.
Yeah.
Like if I can't do it, it's because it doesn't need to be done. If it needs to be done, I can, I'll get help.
Like, we don't actually
Right,
know
it's
what
never-
this looks like. We don't actually know what it looks like when Silk scales the wall. It could look like fucking Spider-Man, and he's just like, well, I'm just good at climbing this rope, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
like he could literally have like superhuman abilities. He probably does.
And I guess anything
Or
he
also,
can't-
I mean, he like the part where he's like throwing the rope or whatever. He's kind of also just like stubborn about it. Like he throws the rope, it doesn't work. He throws the rope again, it doesn't work. Like, and every time he's like, I'll just try it one more time, and then he just does that. He says, I'll try it one more time until the time that it works, and and he's like, it's fate.
There's never a moment of like personal self-reflection where he's like experiences failure and then is like, you know, I need to like practice this, or like I need to go and acquire more knowledge or like a different tool set, or, you know, like I need to change myself in order to overcome this obstacle. It's just whether it's the will of the gods or not.
He never changes himself. He just gives of himself.
Right.
There's a while ago I saw I haven't been on Twitter in a long time, but so this was quite a while ago. Somebody wrote a thing, like a very heartfelt little tweet that was like, you know, when you feel like the world is like sucks, remember that the people in power never once doubt themselves, and that's how they got there, and that doubting themselves is what smart people just do all day long. And I feel like that through learning about Silk, there's like, I feel like the natural, at least for people I know, the natural response to like being inundated with images of Bezos and Musks and people that are just like blind to the damage they do, is to then be extra self-recriminating. It's like, I don't want to be like those bad people, so I can't have that kind of confidence because look where it goes. And where Silk still has the confidence, he just puts it into something else. It goes into something that's not personal. And so he's able to do things where like, you know, whereas I can't, because I say, oh man, I don't want people to think that I believe in myself the way Bill Gates believes in himself. Look at all the evil that he does. But, you know, Silk doesn't take away from himself. He just gives all that to somebody else.
And he's even willing, like, when listening to his faith, when following his faith, he'll betray his faith if he thinks his faith demands it, which is the supreme strength of faith, I guess, maybe. Like all the times that we mock the Bible for contradicting itself, it is perhaps its ability to blatantly contradict itself, and still people find use and value for it in their lives. That is the strength of the Bible.
Yeah, and I mean, like to
paradox,
to bring up Kierkegaard again, like that's like Kierkegaard's entire in Fear and Trembling. That's his entire model of faith, is like being able to accept the core paradoxes of that kind of belief. So like in the case of the Binding of Isaac, like Abraham, understanding that God has promised him this like vast progeny, and then also knowing that he has to kill his only son, who is supposed to sort of be the like beginning of the progeny, and then just rolling with it and saying like, God told me this, God told me this. They cannot be like, they're mutually exclusive, but I'm going to do it anyway. And you know, and then he that's the only reason that his son gets spared, is that he takes that like leap off of the cliff, just thinking like, all right, we're just going to see how this goes. And that's like, for Kierkegaard, it's like, this is terrifying. If you aren't deeply terrified by your own faith, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. I heard someone argue, or read, I believe, that is a description of adulthood. Like, I'm going to do this thing that makes my life suck so that my life can be better.
Right.
was my terrace house impression. Mm.
Well, that might be. Maybe we should leave it at that.
We'll end with adulthood.
Ending with adulthood.
Leave on a high note.
Right before I go do something juvenile all for the rest of the day because I don't have any jobs right now.
What are you going to do?
Oh, the possibilities are endless, but all juvenile. Like, maybe I'll play some video games. Maybe I'll write a poem. Maybe I'll make a tune on my keyboard.
That's not juvenile.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's all
those.
things.
That's like adult creative practice. The video
It's like-
games, but
It's like a teenager's dream. It's like, these are the choices I have to make today. I don't even have to worry about what I'm doing tomorrow because I don't work tomorrow either.
I think I'm gonna make hot sauce today.
nice.
Nice.
Hot sauce?
Yeah,
That's
I'm gonna
adult. That's
gonna
adult.
make
No children make hot sauce.
habanero nectarine hot sauce.
That sounds good.
Man, you guys, I've been making a lot of fridge pickles lately, and I gotta say, if you're not making fridge pickles, you might want to consider adding it to the things that you do because it takes like zero
It's
time and
so
the rewards
easy.
are infinite.
Definitely.
Okay, glad to know that you're all already doing that. When do we want to? 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Oh. And just to say to everyone, like, I'm just like kind of in a transition period. Like, I don't know how to talk about these books exactly yet, so I'm just kind of like, thanks for carrying this. You know, I'm kind of floating along and figuring out.
Oh, unlike the rest of us who just have a perfect, firm grasp.
I'm just getting my sea legs here.
But we knew that was how these first couple of ones are going to be from when we shifted into Earth. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
You
I
guys,
expect it to be more drastic now.
Yeah, it
You
takes a
guys-
while to like, understand the angle of approach.
our next meeting will be in August.
Whoa.
This year is
Wild.
August.
long.
August 2nd.
What a weird year.
Man, March has been the longest month.
It's
So
cool
maybe
that the years going by faster, but so far we're averaging one chapter a session in the book club.
Well,
But the chapters are a lot longer, so
Yeah,
look,
There's only
there's
12
nothing
of
we can do. There's nothing we can do about the pace.
yeah. I mean,
I imagine we'll pick it up a little bit, but we'll see.
I feel like we'll get to 2 chapters at some point in the near future. Not that
Two
I'm
might be
complaining.
just about right, actually. Two might be like what we ideally aim for.
I feel that.
Yeah.
So like 30 or 40
Like-
pages.
I think that the book will be easier to talk about and we'll be able to get further through it once we get into the second half. Because at that point the book understands itself more.
Mhm.
So when we're talking about it, it can make more sense. Is that
We'll also
Right,
be.
because nothing is happening for any reason at this point, really.
Right.
I mean, Silk has a purpose, but it's just like, we're like 5-6 chapters in, and you're just like, what the hell? What the fuck? What is this? And it's like,
Yeah.
nothing is happening for any reason whatsoever.
yeah, this first part really leans into how the world is falling apart right now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's also written in like a much more literary style, I feel like, and I feel like later books start to become more plot driven and more like dialogue driven, you know, with stories and intrigue. But I really feel like Wolf is just really showing off a lot of his writing abilities in the first section of this book. It's like stylistic, more stylistic. I don't know if it returns to that or something.
Which I found so insulting the first time I read it somehow.
Insulting,
I got really mad at the beginning of this book the first time I read it.
huh? Weird.
I had a very hard time with this one, my first peruse.
It's jarring if you have expectations.
I'm having a hard time in the third book right now because it's becoming like so politically, I guess, dense. Like all of a sudden there's just a lot to keep track of, and I'm like slowing down a little bit, so I'm just kind of taking it at my own pace.
I feel like when that wave kind of breaks, that's when my interest is just soaked up into the book, and all of the stuff that I've been slogging through suddenly becomes beautiful and exciting to me. But that political wave, once the Trivaganti appear and the rules all change again, I feel like that's when you start getting the real deal, kind of.
That makes sense.
Or the capacity to first perceive the real deal.
That's when like all of this disparate parts you start to like solidify into something that makes sense. I think.
Yeah.
Or like you're like, oh, because you're missing a big. Yeah, I guess you're missing a big part of the story before they show up, and then it's just like, oh, okay. Not that it makes sense after that, but yeah. I get
The
what you're saying.
Trivaganti allow perspective on Viron. Like up until now, you're only getting a Viennese perspective, and maybe the
And when
Trivaganti
like things
allow.
happen, it's like, because correct me if I'm wrong. This is just what it seems like, that things are happening now, and that's why everything seems just like, what the fuck. Why it seems like it serves no purpose is because we learn the purpose later, or we learn why those things are happening later.
Yeah.
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 2 weeks.
2 weeks. August
Okay.
2nd. 11 a.m.
Chapter
Be
3,
there.
Chapter 3. Maybe chapter 4 also.
maybe 4.
3 and 4.
Okay. Well, are we? Is the stream ended? Have we snipped the cord?
I'll press the little button that ends it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Connor, I'll come down there in a few. Okay.
Yeah,
Does
word.
that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll meet you at the theater.
Okie doke.
Okie doke.